Order the regular meeting of the Paradise Irrigation District Board of Directors, Wednesday, March 20th at 6:30 p.m. And welcome everybody to the first day of spring. Can I get a roll call, please? Here.
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 Here. Okay, seeing as how we're all here, do I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
I so move.
Somebody like something removed?
Second.
Is there anybody who would like to have discussion or something removed from the consent calendar? Are we all good? Okay.
I had some corrections that I had asked be made to the minutes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that has.
Copies are on your desk.
Is this the way it is in the recording? It is?
That's what I had.
You
to
did
hear. I had to track down.
Because I thought I heard him say minus, that's why.
Say what?
I thought I heard you say the word minus when you were talking about it. But if it's in the recording.
I reviewed them.
So this was just a typo, then, essentially, from the minutes?
Pardon?
It was just...
I just wait, well, when I worded it, I didn't realize it didn't sound.
After minus, yes.
After
Okay.
what you said,
Okay. Okay.
I did minus and made it sound like.
So do we need to make a motion for the amendment to the minutes there, or can we just go ahead and approve it?
Right.
I think they need to be the amended
If they
minutes.
need to be amended.
Okay, do I have a
If
motion?
We agree to it.
For the amended minutes?
So you're saying that I know this is what you meant, and you're saying that's not what but you said that?
Yes. Yeah.
You said after.
Excuse me?
You said after and not minus.
Yeah. Less the $815,000 was removed.
I knew what
after
you meant,
it was removed.
but I thought you said minus.
I don't know.
If
It didn't.
recalled it.
So that's why I asked her to check it out for me.
Oh, but
He was saying the savings was the total of the 1 million.
correct. I understand that. Either way, I understand it as that way. I just wondered the way it was worded.
And then the second portion was my vote wasn't counted down on the bottom there.
Oh, well, that's not important.
Clearly it wasn't.
Okay, so before we make a motion to amend the minutes, Director Kellogg, you said you have a correction also?
Yeah. It's concerning Hunt again. It's on the February 20th minutes. It says here, board members, directors Doug Flusher, Ken Hunt, Bill Kellogg, Vice President Larry Duncan, and President Ken Hunt.
Oh.
And so we need to strike the president out. So.
Well, probably.
Demoted again?
Was that mentioned?
Demoted again?
You were mentioned up
Page
at the
21?
bottom. Yeah, page 20, iPad page 21.
iPad
Yeah.
21.
You were mentioned up at the top as the president of the board. So.
Trying another coup.
That's pretty slick. That's a slick way in.
We had two presidents that year.
I think I just heard the door close, but that's a slick way in. So do I have a motion for the amendments to the minutes?
I move that we amend the minutes as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of amending the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor of approval of the consent calendar, say aye with the amendments that we just made. Say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, yes, the consent calendar passes 5-0.
Actually, we have to do a roll call vote on the consent agenda.
Yes, we do.
Sorry,
There's a resolution.
Oh, yeah, right.
resolutions, excuse me.
Resolution
Yes.
for-
So roll call vote
John.
on the approval of the consent calendar with the
Let's
amendments
see if
that were
anybody
made.
changes their vote now.
Yeah.
Director Flusher?
Aye. Yes.
Hunt?
Aye.
Director Kellogg?
Yes. Oh, aye.
Director Duncan?
Aye.
President Crowell?
Aye. Still passes 5-0. Thank you for catching that for us. Public participation. Individuals will be given an opportunity to address the board regarding matters not scheduled on the agenda. Although the board cannot take action on any matter not on the agenda, comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Opportunity for the public to comment on agenda items will be provided at the time they are discussed by the board. with comments limited to 5 minutes per agenda item. Is there anything that the public has tonight that is not on the agenda they'd like to speak to? No? Okay, we'll move on from there. Committee reports and presentations. We have a presentation from our investment advisor, Dan Bay. And do we need a preclude to this, or are we just going to set Dan free?
Set Dan free.
All right, Dan, you're up.
Hello, everybody.
Evening, Dan.
Howdy.
My presentation will be two parts. The first part, I will review your investment portfolio with you. And the second part will be a presentation from Eric Hofert. Eric is with Lord Abbott, which is an investment management firm. He's going to talk about what Lord Abbott's take on where the economy is today and where they think interest rates are going. So I'll work through and we'll do that as quickly as possible for you. So I'm sure you have lots of stuff on the agenda. Cool. Technology works once in a while. So this is the home page of our website that shows your investments. On the left-hand side, you'll see cash and investments. It includes some items that are not pertinent to your particular organization.
Green button's a laser if you want it.
Oh my. All right. Okay, cash and investments. So on the cash accounts,
Thank you, Kevin.
cash accounts, we show a total of $3.267 million, which includes the 2009 water revenue. At U.S. Bank, there's a couple of different account numbers, another one with $84,990. Then currently with Rabobank, it's $2.239 million. Tri-Counties Bank, a couple of different accounts, one with $7,400, one with $640,000, and then Umpqua Money Market account, $278,000. And
The water revenue, now aren't those reserves?
yes, they are. Those are reserves. Correct.
Aren't they restricted reserves too?
Yes.
Yeah, they're
They
restricted.
are restricted
I'm
reserves.
surprised they're up there as cash.
Well, no, they aren't in the cash.
They are.
They're in cash currently.
They're not in cash.
No, they're separated.
Right. And then COP Reserve Fund, current holding $576,000. The investment account that we manage, which has $1.366 million, and we'll dig deeper into there. And then Raymond James CDs, FDIC insured CDs, $524,000.
So want to talk about why we're still holding the CDs with Raymond James?
Yeah, the reason we're holding the CDs with Raymond James is they're paying us, I think, 2.05, close, very close, 2.05%. And better than that.
And we can transfer them.
Yeah, and you're right, they're actually held at Raymond James Bank, so there made no sense to move those over. It made no economic sense. So this is the allocation of the investment portfolio of $1.3 million, which includes both tax exempt or tax exempt organization anyway. These are municipals of $643,000. Right there, which represents about 26% of this particular portfolio. Short-term taxable bonds, $707,000, some unclassified, and which is basically a cash money market account, and cash over there of $14,900. We'll typically leave some cash in there. And as bonds have been coming due, we've been primarily moving that money over to Rabobank at this point because of liquidity issues and also where interest rates are today. Interest rates are extremely low, We don't see any upside right now to investing back into the bond market. So when that changes, we very well may be moving money back over there for this particular point. That's where it sits. This is the breakdown of the short-term municipal bonds. Again, representing about 650,000. Hemet, California, with a coupon of 5.375. And so I want to remind everyone that while the coupon rate may be 5.37, and that is indeed what the interest rate is inside of the bond, we purchased that bond on the open market while rates were much lower, so we paid more than par for that. So our real yield to maturity would be much less than 5.37. We also, again, Florida State, which has 3.54. You can also see the maturity dates: July 15, October 15, Virginia 11 to 14. So this is the tax-free portion of the portfolio, and again represents 26% entire portfolio. And you'll notice that particular percentage of the portfolio for each represents each bond over here. So very well diversified from that standpoint.
What does the price mean, 1.05?
So we paid for it.
That's what we paid for it?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
The screen was set
The
up.
price figure, 1.05.
Allocated?
$105.
Is that a,
Oh, yeah, right, yes. Mhm.
what was it?
Purchase price.
Purchase price?
And this is the taxable account. Again, which all of your bonds, of course, are tax-free. These are
You can explain the price on this one as well.
Yeah. These are corporate bonds, and starting with Berkshire Hathaway. And again, this one, as you can see, comes due August of 16 with a coupon of 2.20 and has a Bush, CIT, Bank, Salt City, etc. Some Morgan Stanley, Wachovia, General Electric, Wells Fargo, etc. And so the price is really the current price of the bond, which is right there, the current value, the percentage of the total portfolio, and then the percentage of the corporate bond portfolios on the side here. So again, well spread out from a percentage basis of your total holdings. But today, again, most of your assets are in either money market accounts and/or FDIC insured CDs, and so very conservative. And again, by policy, your bond obligations, or your bond holdings cannot exceed 5 years. But again, interest rates in this particular interest rate environment, we've really made the decision to reinvest in cash until we see better opportunities. Okay.
Okay.
Is there any questions in regards to the corporate bonds? All right. Well, I'd like to call up Eric. Eric is a product partner of ours, and we've worked with for a number of years. And we rely on information from our product partners in regards to the types of investments that, the timeliness of certain investments. And so, Eric, this is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. So who is Lord Abbott? I always like to just give a little bit of a little history on our firm. So we've been around for about 80 years. We started in 1929. And the firm that we work with is still privately owned. So a lot of people don't really know about us. We currently manage about $135 billion. That's between institutional accounts, retail accounts, as well as pension dollars and things like that. So, and we've had a singular focus our entire existence, and What Dan had asked me to do today was just to come in and speak a little bit about our economic outlook, address interest rates, and kind of get a little bit of clarity there, because I know there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and a lot of it was kind of just discussed here, where we're in a really low interest rate environment, and I think you probably noticed that more recently based on CDs at banks, right? They're very much low. And if you look back 5 years ago, you would have been able to get 5.5% on a CD at a bank, and now today you're getting well less than 1%. So what we really have is a saver's dilemma, and in order to really kind of forecast expectations as we move forward, you always have to look kind of back to where we were, and really what's happened 5 years ago is we had a housing crisis, and essentially what really created that was excess liquidity in the system. And what really does that mean? It means that too many people were getting funded for loans that they couldn't pay back. So inevitably it created a problem for us. So what we've been in over the last 5 years is really an easy money type of economy. And what does that mean? That means the central banks across the world essentially lowered interest rates. And what they do by lowering interest rates is they take off some of that burden from corporations, from the individual consumer, so they can kind of help them repair their balance sheet, really. So that's kind of where we've been over the last 5 years. When we look at our forecast moving forward, we believe that we're going to have slow growth, moderate inflation, and low rates. So if we could talk about those 3 specific bullet points kind of in order. So slow growth. Why do we believe slow growth? Slow growth because we have a debt burden globally. I think everybody's heard, I even heard somebody mention earlier about Cyprus, right? They were threatening to possibly take some deposits from the individual people. Cyprus actually kind of batted that away and said, no, we don't think that would be the best thing to do is to go in and take money from our bank people, because that kind of is the trust of our entire system, right? So that's not going to happen right now, or at least in that form. More to come on that. But when you think about the economic outlook and slow growth, we're talking about GDP, and that's gross domestic product. That's each individual economy's total economic output. And the reason why GDP is not growing in the United States at a very excessive level is because 70% of our GDP, or roughly 70%, is based on the consumer. And what has the consumer been doing over the last 5 years? They've been saving a little bit more, right? If they're saving a little bit more, they're not spending. And that money's not in circulation. So essentially we've kind of been in a period where corporations, municipalities, and individuals have been spending less and saving more, which is a good thing, because it's enabling our consumer, it's enabling our municipality, it's strengthening our corporations. So these are all positive things, and that leads to our general consensus that we'll continue to have slow GDP growth until we kind of deal with all of those global debt burdens that we do have. Then when we talk about moderate inflation, we don't think we're going to have runaway inflation, because you don't get inflation until you get wage pressure. You don't get wage pressure until businesses start to hire a lot more people. How many of you know what unemployment is right now? Unemployment's over 7%, right? And underemployment is well over 10%. So those are numbers that we have to digest, and the Fed's actually told us that they're probably not going to raise rates, which is kind of that third bullet point, until we get unemployment down to around 6.5%. And if we only had 200,000 jobs a month, that means slow growth. That means there's not going to be a lot of inflation. We've been printing money globally, which everybody fears that we're going to have inflation. But the one positive side to the printing of the money is the fact that we've had debt destruction. And debt destruction kind of sounds like this crazy negative connotation, but actually debt destruction is a good thing. And really all that means is that money's printed, and somehow that's taken out of the system, be it a bank foreclosure. If somebody forecloses on the property, then the bank writes it off as well. That money's now out of our system. So it's a positive thing, because that's come off the balance sheets, and it's allowed people to, like I said, become a little bit more strong in terms of their fiscal house. The Fed, the FOMC, they're actually set to meet tomorrow, so it'll be nice to hear what they say about rates. The one thing that we have had is a very accommodative Fed. Whether you agree or disagree with keeping rates as low as they are, like I said, the consumer is starting to yield. Corporations have very, very strong balance sheets, and I would say that's the brightest part about our economy as we move forward, is the strength of corporate America and really the strength of corporations globally. Because if we don't have strong corporations, capitalism really doesn't work. And we got to have confidence at the consumer level as well, because we have to have those people spend the money, and then it's kind of circulating through the system and it all works. That's really kind of what happened in 2008. It's not that the system was broke, it's that the confidence was broke. Right? Companies like Lehman Brothers probably weren't. I heard that Lehman Brothers, when they filed for bankruptcy, had $50 billion in cash. But it took about $80 billion a day to fund their operations. So it's a company that was running themselves pretty well, but at the end of the day, they didn't have enough to make that company call down that first day. So like I said, slow growth, moderate inflation, and low rates. In terms of rates on CDs and conservative investments, what you'll notice up there is that a corporation like Berkshire Hathaway only has to pay 2.2% to get funding for 5 years. That's pretty low. I've even heard deals that were a lot lower, where a company like GE would be able to float a 5-year bond at 1%. The reason that is because the more liquidity that the federal government puts into the system, the more confidence that comes back. And essentially, the more people buy the assets, the more the yields come down. And that's why we're in a lower yielding environment. And we feel, we'll continue to see that until, inevitably, rates are going to go up. And that's going to be the FOMC, which is the Federal Open Market Committee's decision on when they move those rates. And that's the rate that they lend money to the banks. And then they'll put the money out in the system, and then rates move up. And then the consumer gets scared that they're going to miss the bubble on low rates. And then they start to spend money a little bit more because they want the low rates. And then the system starts working a little bit better. In terms of 3 economic scenarios that could come to pass as we move forward, I'd like to just address those, and then we'll kind of go to a conclusion on that. There's fears possibly of a double-dip recession. There's fear of a muddle through. And there's also, we have inflationary or rising interest rates. Our view is that we'll pretty much muddle through. A muddle through type of recovery with probably some interest rate or inflationary pressure down the road. We don't make calls on the market specifically, but street estimates would, if you polled all Wall Street firms, would be pretty similar to that. And the reason we don't believe we'll have anything that's going to be kind of a crater in the middle of the earth, like we had in 2008, is for the simple fact that the ECB and the IMF have kind of gotten a hold of around the fact that if they don't bail out the banks or bail out the countries, they're just going to have to do one or the other. It's pretty much the way it works. So anytime someone gets into really in distress in Europe, which is a big catalyst for our economy and how everything is entwined together, they come to the rescue. So that's a good confidence point there. So they're at the controls in Europe, which was the biggest fear for the longest time, is that they were going to drag us down into another recession. Those fears have started to subside. And you saw that in the consumer this year when equities in the first month of the year were up 6%. At the same time, taxable fixed income was up as well. Municipal bonds were pretty flat. So we've had kind of this risk-on, risk-off trade over the last 3 years. And really what's happened is a 10-year Treasury bond is now paying only 2%. How many of you know historically what a 10-year Treasury bond pays? It's right around, it's over 3%. So you can tell that by the Fed, the FOMC, printing all the money, it's kept rates low, which has provided liquidity to our system, which has allowed the consumer to heal, which has allowed corporations to pay down debt, which has allowed local municipalities as well to do the same type of thing. Because as interest costs go down for the people who are issuing the debt, the money goes directly back into their pocket, which is a great thing. Another bright spot that I always talk about whenever I'm speaking about the economy kind of as we move forward is the fact that I start out with the negative actually. It took 17 months to go from the peak of the market in 2007 to the bottom in 2009. 17 months. It's now taken 4 years to get from the trough of the market to the peak, which we hit just a couple of weeks ago. The benefit of it taking 4 years is that things heal themselves out better. But the bright spot within that is companies haven't necessarily sold a lot more goods. But the stock market is up well over 100% from the bottom. Now, in economic land, there's two types of growth you can have in a corporation or a business. It's bottom line and it's top line. Over the last 4 years, most businesses have only had bottom line business growth. And the problem with bottom line business growth is that means that they get rid of employees and they cut their costs and they make efficiency investments. So that might be technology, making their processes more efficient. They're still selling similar amounts of goods, but they're doing it more efficiently and they're doing it with less people. Now, where we're at today and what we finally started seeing over the last 3, 4, 5 months is the fact that we're now starting to see some top-line business growth. Top-line business growth could be anything from a merger and acquisition. It could be increasing actual sales of whatever goods that they have, which are positive things. So we've had roughly 4 years of bottom-line business growth that's allowed our stock market to double from the bottom. And now we get to the part that's good, which is top-line business growth, which is where companies start to hire more employees, companies start to buy other companies with that cash that they've been sitting with on the sidelines. And what I always ask people to do is think of yourself as an individual if you were running a corporation. When you think the world's going to end, what are you going to do? You're going to hold as much cash as you can on the sideline. And this is the final stat that I'll leave with you. There was roughly $5 trillion of cash in short-term investments and money market investments in the year 2000. In 2009, that number was as high as 12 trillion. Okay? To put that in perspective, our equity markets are right around 15 trillion. So there's almost as much money in cash and short-term investments as there was in our equity markets. And compare that with our fixed income markets, which are 30 trillion. That number is still at 11.5 trillion. Okay? So the point is there's still a lot of money that's sitting on the sidelines. We haven't even seen the top-line business growth that we actually need for our economy to repair itself. So it's sustainable. So there's a lot of bright spots in there, but the media is really going to only speak about all the negative things. And we have fears too at our firm. But what we have to also recognize is that at the end of the day, if we do our fundamental analysis of corporations and we see where the money is and we kind of focus on these different things, it allows us to have some optimism, and it also allows us to, invest in the market with really education versus fear of all these different things. Because if I would have talked to any of you probably 2 or 3 years ago, I'm certain that more than half would have thought that we would have been in a stock market sell-off or a double-dip recession, and those things didn't happen. For whatever reason, we've passed through that, and the market is a lot more healthy today than it was a couple of years ago. So with that, I would just ask if there was any questions. I will do that.
Any board members and the public have any questions?
I have one. You talked about a forecast in your firm. What's the length of the forecast that you guys are looking at for this kind of low interest rate, low slope?
Low interest rate. Yeah. So there's kind of two parts to maybe the forecast. Low interest rates at the federal level, the FOMC level. They've told us they were going to keep rates low, and by us I mean everybody. These are public statements, just like they have in this meeting, until 2014 or beyond. And really what they've done is they've targeted a 6.5% unemployment level before they adjust those. Now, whether or not they keep rates low until 2014 or beyond is to be seen. But we feel that they will be very clear and transparent in terms of letting us know. Typically, when they do start moving interest rates up, they'll give us the guidelines maybe 6 months before they do that. And then in terms of like the economic growth and things like that, that's pretty dependent upon that as well. And really the reason why slow growth is our outlook is because there is that global debt overhang that we're still dealing with. It's kind of slowed us down because corporations are as strong as they can possibly be, but there's still that debt. There's still that concern. And these improving credit market cycles, which is what these are typically called, where the assets were the most expensive to where the most cheap to where they're the most expensive. Those typically last 5 to 7 years, and we're only 4.5 years into what's the deepest one that we have in a lot of years. So one could argue we have a lot more years left.
question. Can you just explain the relationship between your firm and Lord Abbott, just so that the board understands the relationship?
Yeah, so I'm a regional manager with our firm. There's about 70 individuals like myself across the country. We work as intermediaries in between the investment firm Lord Abbott and financial advisors. We don't give financial advice to individuals. We give advice and consult with the financial advisors.
Thank you, Kevin, for clarifying that for us, too.
I have a question.
Yes.
Director Fletcher?
I was impressed twice this evening by Eric when I walked in the door, and I put this hat on in June of last year. And he's the first person that snapped his head around and looked at my hat. Eyes got this big around, and he says, "That a University of Sioux Falls hat?" And I said, "What the heck's going on here?" Eric is a South Dakota individual, and he knew what this hat was. He was a kicker on one of the teams in South Dakota. And if you did half a good job kicking as you have critiquing the financial situation of this great country, you're awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you, Eric, for giving us that report that was very easy for us all to understand, too. I appreciate that, yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you again. And I'd like to thank Dan and Misty for taking the time and care to watch after the district, our money, and our finances. And we appreciate your time for coming up here and doing this report for us. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, our next report is going to be an oral report on Butte LAFCO with Director Duncan.
Okay, I forget what day we met, but it was the first Thursday of the month. It's been a while. We basically did housekeeping, except we did go to closed session and did the same thing to our manager that we did to George. The review. And
Did you say you went into closed session?
yes, we went into closed session and did it. And then when we came out of closed session, we made an announcement of what we had done. Yes, we did it all in closed session.
And what did you do?
We evaluated the manager without him being present.
And what was the evaluation?
What was the evaluation?
What did you announce?
Oh, we announced that we're allowing the manager to work with the furloughs. We've been having furloughs to save money, but now that it's getting busier, we're going to allow him to work with the furloughs. But there are no increases in the budget that we haven't approved yet, but the committee has talked about. I'm getting a little bit mixed up because I'm on the finance committee too, and we did both, one right after the other. But in his review, we gave him a very good review, and he told us that he was not asking for a COLA or an increase. And that's what we announced when we came out of session. The other thing was that on the budget committee, we went in there and the committee is recommending to the board that we give the manager the okay to reduce the furloughs if the workload permits, and that we're suggesting a 10% increase in dues for the members, since we haven't had an increase in 4 years. And let's see what else. Basically, we're keeping very lean budget on that. And then also in the meeting we just did housekeeping things, and we're still battling with Chico on their extensions outside of their
Annexation.
Annexation.
Outside there.
The board has changed now. We're very much in favor of annexation, but now they're not, and so it's getting hard, and we're just getting to the point where we're not going to allow them any more services unless they annex, and we do have that power.
You said there was a change in the board's,
in the council at,
so is there
in Chico.
a change in the members of that board?
In our board? No, not our board, it's a Chico that's changed. See, Chico was very much in favor of annexing, and now all at once they're backing off. Also, too, I think they lost an employee. I think he retired. One of the employees retired who was really pushing
They
it.
went through a huge streamline, so they.
Oh, yeah, the
there's
streamline,
not so much
too.
of,
That's probably part of it, too, that streamline. Yeah, we met, where was that guy? He was at some meeting we were at. What was it? I forget where he was.
I don't remember.
You weren't there? I forget where it was.
Was he out in Orville when you guys went to the economic forecast?
No, wasn't there. I forget where it was. Boy, I have a few things going through my head right now.
It's not tax season or anything.
No, it's
like
not
that.
tax season or anything. Right. So that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you, Larry. We'll move on to item number 5, General Manager's Report. And George, we'll cut you loose on that.
Well, and first of all, your memo says special meeting. And I don't think it is a special meeting.
No, it's not. Good catch. Yeah, my written report, I have a couple things to add. I will pass out, you don't need to read them tonight, but I will pass out a couple of opinion letters from legal counsel about the Bay Delta. They didn't really want them in our public packet at this point. So that'll kind of, you don't need to read them now, but that's something you can take a look at. And if you recall, we joined in with other water districts in the North State to help be involved in this Bay Delta issues, etc. And so I just wanted to bring you up to speed as of the end of the year, I believe it is. Our share was $2,871.64 out of a total of $152,000, basically. That's where we're at on that.
What was our share?
$2,871.64.
How big of area did that cover?
It's mostly Northern California.
Sacramento Valley.
Yeah, Sac Valley.
Remember that? Okay.
Goes down as far as Folsom and Roseville, City of Sac.
How many water districts approximately?
25.
25?
30.
30.
It's in there then.
Well, they're more than just water districts. There's cities, counties.
Okay.
There's counties too. I wanted to kind of bring up something that was in the treatment plant report, just to highlight it. Bill Taylor, he's our operations supervisor. He was nominated by Jim Passanisi for a Cal Nevada AWWA award, and he was selected as the top operations supervisor in the Cal Nevada AWWA.
Wow, great.
Is he going?
Exemplary Supervisor Award.
Is he going?
Yeah, him and I are going next week to
Great.
see what they have, and he'll get his placket and
Great.
lunches. So
That's the Las Vegas.
So did you send a
was
current
hoping
picture
that he was going.
of him down there? Did you send the photograph of him down there?
yeah, there's a photo down there. They'll put up a big old plaque, so everyone that walks through the conference gets to see him.
Are you going to videotape it for us?
And that's through his work at PID, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty good in 1 year.
Yeah, that's a lot of agencies in
Yeah, that's,
California, Nevada.
That's a real accomplishment
It's a very great accomplishment.
for not only him, but for us.
yes.
I'll answer anything on my written report, but I wanted to remind you a month or two ago I was talking about the meeting I was having on the Sterling Lake. If you remember back, the Three Amigos had that idea, and I've been working with Dennis Moreland of South Feather, who's in this for trying to get jobs created. And so we're having a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. You're welcome to attend if you want to come listen. At least 2 of you can. I was just going to show you the overhead so that you could kind of see where it was at. So there, if you look here, right here is Sterling City. And the Hendricks Canal is this blue line. That's the existing Hendricks Canal. And they have developed a few different options for a reservoir up there. So one of the benefits is this is an off-stream reservoir, or considered an off-stream storage reservoir. It is the smallest options right here. I think that was about 90,000 acre feet, if I remember right. I forgot to bring my data. But what we're trying to do, what I want to accomplish tomorrow is we have PG&E, who has the water rights in the area, and we have Sierra Pacific Industries representatives coming, as long as local government officials. And I want to make sure that that everybody is okay with moving forward studying this. I didn't want to kind of start a project with somebody wholly against it, so I'll try and answer their questions as best I can. Not super deep in the project, but I've read the report. I understand it pretty well. And for us, the reason this has kind of been focused as a PID project is this: if this were to work out, there would be a penstock coming out of this reservoir to a point down here where it would generate hydroelectric power, which would be PG&E's more than likely, since they have the water rights. But that would give enough head to actually put a takeoff of that penstock and bring a line up over to where it would dump in just above our Magalia Reservoir intake.
So that's just
our
where
bypass.
where it makes the left turn there. That's just above Head Dam.
Yeah, I think
Good.
is it Bean Soup Bar, I think,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Where's Paradise Lake?
Paradise Lake's right here.
Oh, that little teeny thing
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
I was wondering, where's
That'll give you an idea.
So you
This
can see
is Paradise Lake
how big
right
it
here.
is.
Lake is, yeah.
And this
Whoa.
would be the proposed reservoir.
I thought that was just a river over there.
You said that the proposed reservoir was 90,000 acre feet.
I believe the smallest one was, yeah.
Yeah, and just to
And
let the
Paradise
public
is
know what
11.5.
11.5 exactly. So
This was non-engineered by local guys, so it needs to be looked at very closely. So we wouldn't know what size at this point.
Did you?
And I guess if we get kind of a consensus that nobody has big red flags with it, then we can put this project in the Northern Sacramento Valley Integrated Water Management Plan for potential funding in the future. It's kind of one of those dreams way out there, but you got to keep.
But you have
kinda
to say it
plugging
now.
away.
When you opened up, did you say this was the Three Amigos?
Yes.
When I was involved with the Fire Safe Council before it became the Butte County Fire Safe Council, I'm sure they came and gave a presentation to us.
I'm sure, because they were hitting everybody.
Yeah, they were hitting everybody.
Paul
Yeah.
Krapashutz was the leader, and I'm drawing. I should have.
I don't remember how we acted on it, but it sounded pretty good then. And as far as I'm concerned, George, we have to watch every angle, and this is one of them that sounded good to me. At least look at it.
Yep.
You're not going to make any commitments till you bring it back to us, naturally.
Well, the only
You
thing
don't
we're going to
always.
do is throw it in the mix for
Yeah.
funding with no commitment from.
When they gave
for
their
district sources.
reports, I'm just trying to think back. It's been several years ago to the Fire Safe Council. It sounded good then. It really did. For something that was just in the pilot stage, plot thinking, and all that.
Yeah, they did. They put a lot of good work into it, and
They
they
sure
did.
have.
They had taken it to DWR, who has a special
Yeah.
project section, and DWR basically said that it, the idea makes sense, but it's nothing they can carry forward with because at the time it's PG&E's water rights, and that would be a problem. But one of the other benefits to it, maybe a stretch, but as it progresses, it may get important, is the projections on climate change for Lake Oroville could cause them to release water a lot more often and not carry over as much storage. So an opportunity to add storage you could carry over that isn't a flood control reservoir might actually make sense to funders in the future.
Well, I know on that one, I was working pretty strongly with Fish and Game at the time on some stuff here and down at Bucolic and other places, and they're really concerned about raising the temperature of the Sacramento River on these kind of projects. And I think with some other people, I walked a bunch of that, and a lot of that is on SPI land. And it's a beautiful spot to put something like that, because at that time it was mainly all tan oak, if I remember correctly. There was lots of tan oak. And I know SPI has been doing a lot of work on the tan oak and reforested it. Have they reforested any of that yet? Where this site is?
They always have to reinforce some, whether
Oh, yeah,
it's
they're doing it
successful
all
or
the
not,
time.
I don't know.
Which is good for them.
Yeah. So, yeah, the other stuff's on the agenda. So, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Well, thank you, George, for getting that into the mix there, because if we don't start now, then we're not going to have things down the line. So we either have to start now and...
Well, it's one of those projects that if it catches the eye of a federal politician for jobs and
Exactly.
other things, you know, it could take a life of its own. So unless you give them those ideas,
Yeah, no.
they won't come up with them.
Yeah, zero ideas get zero consideration, so. Was there any questions from the board on the manager's report? Any questions from the public on the manager's report? Okay. And Jim, congratulations. That's easy. Back there, snuck in during the middle, but George just told us that, reiterate what award that was.
Jim proposed it. It's Bill Taylor.
Bill, I thought it was Jim that got. That's why I was saying in 1 year. I know. I said in 1 year. Wow, that is pretty good. I mean, yeah. What are we doing up there? You know, we've got some spun gold coming out of there. So okay.
How many?
Well, thank you for proposing that. Yeah, I know. Bill deserves that. So.
How many people would
Great.
Bill have been competing against? Or was there any competition? How many other water treatment people, Jim?
Did they even let
It
that out?
was a relatively small group, they only told me of mostly, but they like to give the word to smaller water districts because they know how hard these types of supervisors work because they have to wear lots of hats.
Yeah, good.
And they're just jack of all trades, master of none, they're jack of all trades, and they master a whole bunch of things.
True. Very true.
I hope I got that, made that clear.
And since Rick left, I think Bill's had his hands full. Multiple hats. Yeah. No. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I did have one other thing. The Cal Fire crews came in yesterday and did our planning up along Clark for kind of the screening part of the planting. So that's in, and you can see that when you're driving by.
Good. Thank you, George. We're going to move on to item number 6, our legal report, and Dustin Cooper, we will ask you for that.
I'll be brief. You have the letters from my office about the Bay Delta. Remember, this is kind of a two-phased approach. Phase 1 is to determine an unimpaired flow standard. Phase 2 is to actually implement an unimpaired flow standard. And that process is kind of moving along at a slow pace. The one thing I did want to say is they're starting to solidify on a number. And the range that they're saying for unimpaired flow is now between 25% and 45%. And so you can imagine what that would do to a district like Paradise Irrigation District if you had to essentially bypass around your dam 25% to 45% of inflow. And so you take an example like this year where the majority of our rain occurred over a couple weeks in December, and if we had to bypass that, either 25 or 45%, we'd be in drought conditions almost every year. It would be devastating. So the San Joaquin River is, they've kind of, the state board has separated out the two processes, and they're dealing with the San Joaquin first. And they've kind of said, we believe 35% is appropriate on the San Joaquin River. And they're kind of in the process of trying to come up with some kind of settlement. I'm not very confident that will happen. But that at least is an indicator of what the board will eventually do on the the Sacramento side of things. The Naqua folks and the Sac Valley Water Users Association, the group that George was just mentioning, many of the attorneys of the group are of the mind that we should propose some kind of settlement and some alternative to kind of direct staff at the State Water Resource Control Board away from this unimpaired flow standard. My view on that is it's an absolute pipe dream. The staff is committed, I think the State Board is committed to establishing some kind of number, unimpaired flow number. So I think if you're assigning probabilities, it's very likely that we will have an unimpaired flow standard. But that's only the first phase. The second phase is when they actually have to get that water, either through some kind of water right proceeding or public trust process. And that's where we'll all put up a gigantic fight. And PID will be you'll be pretty well off, I think. You're a municipal supply only. We are able to show very dramatic impacts from even a minor loss of the water right. We have early water rights, we have a pre-14 water right, and we also have very relatively early appropriative water rights. So I think we're going to be okay, but it is something that we need to continue to watch and be prepared to fight if necessary.
Do you think we might get that license before that?
Yeah, I think the process that the State Board is taking is a many year process.
We're talking a 10-year process.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we'll get our license in the next year or so.
Good. Because I think that'll give us another foot up if we have the license.
Yeah, it would help.
But the state will take
Isn't the unimpaired flow supposed to be a scientific calculation?
Well,
can you
I know,
settle
really.
a
I love the in
scientific
parentheses,
calculation?
yeah, scientific, yeah.
the settlement proposal that I've been hearing is basically, let's just do what we're already supposed to be doing, which is put gravel in the river for salmon. We'll kind of mimic natural flows. We'll reoperate the reservoirs. GCID has this grand idea about groundwater pumping in conjunction with the use of the reservoirs, and of course they want to sell their groundwater and make millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny to see because it's you know.
Who's GCID?
Glen Palooza Irrigation District. They're the largest or one of the largest agricultural districts in California. They're on the west side.
Yeah, some of the oldest water rights.
They're federal. They
They're-
have federal contracts.
But GCID recently published this very thick report about how they could pump groundwater and then they could reoperate Shasta to the betterment of fish and the betterment of their pocketbooks too.
They don't have that good of groundwater over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with it.
Yeah.
So, I'll kind of continue giving you updates periodically as they happen. And if anything really dramatic happens, of course, I'll fill you in immediately.
Okay. Is there any questions? Other Bill just commented on the board, on the public? Any questions? All right. Thank you, Dustin, for that. Next time, yeah, good news. Yeah, let's have good news next time, right? No, that's actually not bad because I think you're right. We're going to be a little safer than some districts out there because we don't have the other things that some districts do. So, old business, we have none. We'll move on to number 8, new business, customer appeal regarding private pipelines. And I'm going to turn this over to review and consider a request from Sam Gronseth to fund the replacement of a pipeline serving his property on Magadon, is that how you say it? I think that's how you say that word. Lane in Paradise. And George, we'll turn this over to you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. This is the first time I've had one of these since I've been on the board for the last couple of months. I have friends, as you know, all over Paradise, but Sam Gronseth is a special friend. I've worked with him for quite a number of years in the Paradise Community Chorus, which he's a director of, the chorus and singing. And I was on that board for quite a number of years, served 2 years as president, and I'm still the stage manager, and I've worked with his youngsters in 4-H, and I still work with his daughter in school and in 4-H, so what should I do? He's a very close friend.
Yeah.
I can vote without any worry. He's at least my friend at this given moment.
Everything you've said, everything you've said so far doesn't require you to recuse
Okay,
yourself.
I just wanted to get clarification on it.
It's really, as long as you don't have a financial interest in the
No
applicant.
financial interest whatsoever.
That's the big concern.
Okay.
You mean if we like somebody or dislike somebody,
It's okay, huh? No, I just wanted to get that clear. Because I've done a lot of work on his property with livestock, see, with his kids.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
If you'll let me just set the table and then we can hear from Sam. So you guys know how we got where we are. There was a period of time in the district, I don't know the exact years, but the board in the district would allow somebody that wanted to build a house, if they did not want to build or pay to have the main built to district standards, then they allowed them to build their own pipeline and put a meter on the end of it with a promise to maintain that pipeline going forward.
Which end was the meter on?
The meter is on the property end. So if I use this as an example, this pipeline right here probably was originally built to serve Mr. Gronseth's property. A 2-inch line, the person built it themselves. It was not to district standards, but they allowed them to build it and put the meter here with the promise to maintain that line. Okay? And then as time went on, people would build a house here and they were allowed to connect. People would build a house here, they were allowed to connect.
Did they also agree to maintain the line?
And Sam, this is all before you own the property.
Sometimes.
Probably before I was born.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I was going with.
That's an old pipeline, isn't it?
So we're in this situation now where we have 48 private pipelines identified. 33 of those we have documentation, either a letter from the original guy or a letter from the original and a letter from that person approving their neighbor to hook up, things like that going on. And then we've got 15 where all we have is it was designated on a map as a private pipeline, and those maps information carries over as we update the maps, but there's nothing in our records that
How it got there.
says this, Joe Smith agrees to maintain this pipeline. So, and as I told Mr. Gronseth, this is your appeal, but this is a bigger issue than just his neighborhood. So I wanted to let you guys kind of know how we got there. So there's where we're at.
So he's appealing what you told him you wouldn't do,
Well,
right?
I don't have the authority to say we're going to
But
take
I mean,
care
what's
of
he
your main.
appealing? Did you give him an ultimatum or something?
He was asking to have the line lowered so that he could do work on his road.
Oh, and what did we say?
Basically, that's how it started, right? And so we said, this is a private pipeline, so we can't do that. And then we met and talked, and I explained how this all came about. I don't have authority to say we're going to take that line over. So it's up to you guys to decide how we proceed. And with that, we'll kind of let...
See, I thought when you say appeal, at me, it sounds like a decision's been made and now he's appealing that decision.
The decision was, we're not going to take over your
Okay, so
pipeline.
there was...
He's making an appeal to the board. Which group does
Is he
Sam
one of the
fall into,
15
the
or the
15 or the
33?
33? Do we have
He
information
falls in
on
the 15.
in the 15? Well, I kind of
No information.
yeah.
I
Okay.
have a feeling that.
Guess that you were maybe in the 15 category. We just want to make sure. So.
Well, and it really did come up exactly like that, and it's true that there wasn't a specific, we will only do this, or we won't do that. And so I kind of questioned the appeal aspect too, but basically I think the thing I'd like to make is a proposal. And Magadan Road is Lower Sawmill.
Go get the Thanks.
And it is a gravel road that serves 4 homes. And there are four homes connected to that pipeline. When I purchased the property, No information came about the pipeline, but information began to surface when the pipe began to surface. And the pipe obviously wasn't put as low as it should be. And so probably 15 to 18 feet of the pipe are on the surface of the road and can clearly be seen by the naked eye. And so it came to my attention as that started to come about. And so I contacted PID and discovered that it is a private pipeline, and probably exactly what you said, George, is what happened. It probably went to the house that I'm in, but now 3 other houses for a total of 4 access that line. I wanted to fix the road, and before I invest in gravel and just put gravel over the pipe, I wanted to investigate the possibility of that becoming a PID pipe and replacing it. So that would really be my request, is that PID replace that pipe and replace it probably with the same 2-inch pipe. I don't think that there is enough potential to be able to put, I think it's a 6-inch pipe that would put a hydrant down there.
Yes.
And I don't think that's really necessary, and as George and I talked about cost, it almost triples the cost to put that down there. So I really didn't have any knowledge about an agreement or anything, but at this point there are 4 homes that are very long-standing on that road, probably ranging from 25 to maybe 60 years old. And my thought was that those homes have been paying into PID for their water for that many years. At least one of those homes for the full amount of years, and the others there are no newer homes. Every home there is at least 25 years old. So they've been paying into PID for that amount of time. And so my request would be that PID replace that line and put that through.
How long is it?
It's about 300 feet.
What's the fire department's
Right.
take
Fire
on
department's going to want a
how
fire
far
hydrant.
you go down a main without having a fire hydrant?
Yeah.
They can't require an upgrade to a 6-inch unless they want to pay for it out of their hydrant fund.
Oh.
And I
But
doubt
if
that
we-
would be.
But if we touch the line, then we're going to be probably under requirement, aren't we?
Nope.
No?
We're replacing 2-inch lines.
Oh, with the
whenever
same
we
line?
can,
Oh.
of the same size.
So as long as it's the same size, we're okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Mr. Gronseth, did you ask the other 3
No,
people
that's
that are on the receiving service from that line if they were all willing to share in the cost?
The answer is no, except for one who I didn't have specific numbers when I discussed that, but they weren't real interested in doing that. I realized at the time that I signed the contract that the road was my responsibility to basically have it be accessible to all those places, but didn't really know anything about the water pipe. But I am in charge of keeping the road drivable.
You're responsible for the road?
And so are you responsible for let's say that we said no, are you responsible for replacing that pipeline? I mean, if I were you, I'd put in a big tariff on those folks. I'd start charging a handling fee for...
Colgate.
Full gate at the beginning of the road, you know?
So you tell me exactly how to do that, I'll confirm with council.
Yeah.
I'm probably okay with moving that direction, but I hadn't really considered that possibility. 2 of the people on there are renters. I really haven't met the owners of that property. One other property owner I am aware of.
Does the pipe come up?
Is that Machuta? I'm sorry, go ahead, Loretta.
Do these other properties have meters?
Yes.
There's-
So PID put in a meter on this old pipe.
I assume.
Private line?
Would that have happened if PID put that meter in?
Yeah, we had to put the
Would
meters
have
in.
been in with our permission or installed by us, one or the other.
Right. And I would say the newest property there's probably 25 years at least. So this has been a while back.
And it's George's fault.
Is there any record of when the meters were put in, George?
Not original. I mean, it's not tracked in our system.
Oh, it isn't?
We've been tracking when the meters were replaced for a while, which now they're almost all on the same term. But the original installation date never got put into our system.
When did our capacity fees go into effect?
Exactly.
Those went into effect in the, I'd have to look it up, but we did it,
was
talked
after
about it
the-
last summer.
It'd be, okay, it's after, so
It
they
was
haven't
around
paid,
25 years ago.
they haven't paid capacity fees probably then,
Probably not.
right? So they got hooked up for practically nothing. And meters were real cheap back
But they
25
paid property taxes for quite a few years until Prop 13 came in.
Yeah. Did we get part of that
We got quite a bit of property tax
before that?
before Prop 13,
And you still get some.
and we still.
Yeah, but that Prop 13's over 25 years.
1978, I believe.
But the houses are over, like you said, could be
Said 25
60
years.
No, that's the youngest house.
Yeah,
I'm guessing my house is probably 70 years old originally.
70, okay.
It was the first on the property.
And why are you in charge, why are you responsible for the road?
Well, it's just, I think it was all one property, and so my property line actually includes the road and then comes out into what I consider to be my property, but the access
Wait,
is
you're-
listed as my property. Pretty excited about it.
You kind of, yeah, I know, yeah, I can sense it in your voice.
Like our water treatment plant, man, Sam has been elected as the top music instructor, teacher in the state more than once. But I don't know about business practices, Sam. Directing choirs and bands, he's right out there at the head of the pack.
Doesn't help replace pipeline.
Particularly if somebody got you to maintain their road.
Right.
Not the smoothest road in the world, I might add.
I assume we've been out to inspect the pipe, and is there any damage or foreseeable, I mean,
There's no leak history, and that's where things kind of cross the line in a lot of these instances. If we never had this conversation and that line started leaking and the renter called PID on the weekends, more than likely our guy's going to go out and fix that leak. And if he doesn't take the time to go back to the map and determine whether it's a private pipeline, which doesn't often happen,
we would have invested money
we
anyway.
would have done it.
The meters are all, the pipe comes off of Sawmill Road, and I haven't, even though I've been down there many times, haven't looked at it. But the meters are in the front of each one of those homes, right, Sam?
See the green E's?
Yours is in the front because I've always
That's
worried
where
about
the
backing
meters
over
are.
it. Yeah,
And then we've got C900 up to that black
Yep.
junction, or is that pointing over to, is
This
part of the...
is a 6-inch C900 to a valve, and we were a little puzzled as to why.
There are two valves there, actually.
Yeah.
There's a 6 on the main and then a 2-inch.
Was there a hydrant put in over here?
I was looking at the map and I.
John Price was confused.
There's a hydrant on the other side of the road.
there is.
So Sawmill is where we come down from the top, the E,
Alongside.
and then the little jog in the
Right
road,
there.
and then, yep,
Just
yep.
go down
Okay.
to right there.
I used to pull in there quite often with a livestock trailer, and I know there's a hydrant and a big rock, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to hit one or the other.
Yeah.
And I've hit the big rock, but I've never hit the hydrant, fortunately enough.
So it's possible the district went in there, maybe it was leaking, maybe there was going to be a pavement overlay
Project
on
or
Sawmill or something, and so we might have went in and,
Well, there was
Taking care of that.
probably 7 years ago or so.
yeah, so we did this in
Mm-hmm.
2000, so that was probably trying to get the problem out of the way before paving. So we've done part of the replacement without going after the owners.
Of course, looking at it on the water side of it, your meter, as I remember, Sam, is pretty close to your house, by the garage there, someplace in there.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
within
we've got
the
all,
driveway area.
that 2-inch pipe's up there, and these other people, according to the plan here, is down there by their homes, which I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
So if it leaks, like George was just talking about, it's going to be all PID water, you know. And of course, if we don't come out and fix it, put a dam in down there, and you'll have a leak. Because it won't be charged because the meter, that pipe would miss our meters. I'm not being foolish,
Correct.
I'm just saying,
Yes.
because it's all strictly PID pipe right now, as far as the world's concerned.
After
But-
talking to Dustin about this issue, I guess I have a recommendation, and you can jump in where you see fit. And that would be for us to accept the pipelines that have no owner information as our responsibility to maintain and replace as we see fit. Since if we're taking to court, the likelihood of us winning is a little not too great. And then sending a letter to everyone connected to the ones that we do have information on, reminding them of their responsibility. If you have any questions, contact me. We'll sit down and talk about it. That may cause a flurry of people wanting to talk to the board, but at least we're putting them back on notice that this is your responsibility.
Is it possible to get a letter, a statement like that recorded along with the property so that it is there for any future sales and would be visible? Then if we're going to do something like that, we should record it.
It wouldn't be in the letter, but it would be a notice that...
Something.
Yeah, a disclaimer.
Okay.
A disclosure.
I've had things recorded, and similar. Not exactly, but I've had...
Informational items recorded, say, buyer beware.
Now, let me finish.
Yeah, finish, please.
Before you make a decision, you need to understand that at Dustin's recommendation, I contacted our insurance authority, and it was there under hypothetical, which means they could still back out of this. If we said there was a private pipeline and that line ruptured and caused damage, and we said it's private, our carrier said they would defend the suit and they would pay claims if it was determined to be a PID-owned line. That was their answer to the hypothetical question.
But right now, our only line is along Sawmill Road, right?
No, you've got
No, we've got the neck of the...
11 different owners.
I guess the layman's
No, I mean,
understanding...
on this case here,
this-
the only pipe that the PID owns is out here on, I'm just talking about
legally,
Route 6.
yes.
But
Or it's our opinion.
what happens is you're going to establish a precedent.
Oh, yeah, and there's gonna be 14 other people that want their pipe
Right.
fixed, yeah.
But that would be in what you said, at our discretion. If there's nothing wrong with the pipe, it doesn't have any leak history, we're not going to go in and just replace pipe just because we've decided that we're going to take over those 15.
Yeah, and in this
This
case,
is undocumented.
we would work with Mr. Gronseth. If he's got an area that's exposed and he's going to surface the road and we don't really want it exposed either, we may go in and replace that section that's really high and then tie back in, since there hasn't been a history of leaks. And then deal with it from that point forward.
But like I was saying, and maybe a little facetiously, that if that line ruptures, disregarding damage or any of that, the owners here would not have any responsibility because it would all be coming out of the main on PID.
They wouldn't have to
That
pay for the
that
water.
2-inch line right now,
Responsibility
except
for the water.
where they tie on.
That's where the finger pointing comes in.
Yeah, that's where the finger pointing comes.
We would probably shut it off
Yeah.
and
Nobody,
main.
they'd have no
Fix it.
water.
If it's a private line, we're going to shut it off at the main and say,
Right.
there you go.
fix it and we'll turn it back on.
I understand.
What kind of motion do you need on this to do that?
Do we get an easement on that then? Or-
It'll be a prescriptive. We're not replacing size.
Well,
Yes, I
you
know.
know, this is quite can be quite a can of worms, I understand that. And what was your recommendation actually, Dustin, on these 15?
I don't have a recommendation. George's recommendation
What's
was
George's?
to go ahead and accept the column of no owner information.
15.
And the reason you feel this could come back and bite us is because it would have been the district's responsibility to
Well, what
make sure we had
happens is,
information on this. Is that
in the
where you're
event of a
looking at it?
rupture, it's going to be an argument.
Yeah.
We don't have the best evidence that it's privately owned. On the other hand, they don't have the best evidence that it's PID
They
owned.
don't, exactly.
But but there would be an argument. The good thing that takes a lot of risk out of the equation is the carrier has indicated that they would likely defend the suit, and they don't, in the event that PID was determined to be the owner, they would also pay for any damages. So that, I mean, if the board really wanted to take an aggressive approach and say, no, these are private lines, they're going to stay private lines, and if you want to upgrade them and replace them to PID standards, then we can consider a dedication. You could take that approach because you have some protection in the form of insurance.
But I've also had instances where our carrier will back out
Yeah.
when they get the details.
There's no guarantee. I mean, they haven't said definitively they'll.
But if we accept these 15 private pipelines and say because we aren't sure whether they're private or not, we don't have good documentation, so we're going to take them into the PID family. Once we acknowledge that, then if we have damage that's caused by a self-declared PID main breaking, our insurance company will cover it without any further fussing.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we ought to do if there's no owner information on the private pipelines for those 15 people, I think we should take it in-house. On the owner end, where we do have those other 33 private pipeline, where we do have documentation that those are true owner private pipelines, I think we should record a document, record a statement with the property in Oroville, at the assessor's office or wherever it would get recorded, so that anytime there's a title search done on that property, it pops up, and we aren't going to have somebody come along, live in the house for 6 years and say, well, why didn't I know about this? And because if we just send somebody a letter now, it's hitting the round file by Saturday, and any future owner's not going to know what's going on.
So it's in the disclosure package.
How much would it cost to have the 33
Probably $15 each one.
noted on the maps?
You don't
Or is
pay
it-
recording fees as a public agency.
Oh, you don't?
have staff time.
Oh.
You gotta,
You mean for the letters? Or
No,
were you
no, I
asking
meant
about
for
the
to
pipeline?
get it on the map. But we wouldn't have any recording fees. That's what I was wondering
Oh, yeah.
about recording fees.
you'd have some staff time collecting legal descriptions, those types of things.
What about a compromise? Where they pay a little bit of it?
Go ask them.
No, I mean, I'm talking about us. I mean,
Well, that's a
I'm
different
talk-
property though, John.
I'm
so
talking
we'll
about-
take it in a minute.
I'm talking about, we're talking about spending PID's money, which is everybody's money,
Exactly.
on 15 people, 15 property pipelines, maybe more than 15.
We're not necessarily saying we're having to spend any money.
We don't have any proof about it, so we're going to go ask these 15 people, say, well, would you voluntarily help pay for this to absolve this, and we'll let you buy in for 50% or 25%.
Well, if we set a precedence on it, maybe we'll have a foot to stand on. That's why I'm saying these people have a need right now. Maybe they're willing to help out a little bit.
Do you want to hold them hostage because they're...
No, not hostage.
As I see your need now, Sam, is with your pipe on top of the ground, before you put any money in road maintenance, you'd like to get that taken care of.
Well, that would make sense to me.
As far as the pipe, strictly the pipe, if there wasn't a road there, it's doing fine.
Yeah.
So it'd be, on the other 15 or 14, it would be our discretion to say,
Yeah.
your pipe is doing fine and you're having pressure and all that, and
We would just treat it like we do our other 2 inches.
Or the 2 inches.
How much is exposed?
They haven't been there as long as mine has. so,
Right.
I'm just guessing.
How much of the pipe is exposed? About how many, and guesstimate how many feet?
I think you say 100 in your letters, Sam, as I remember. I don't remember.
No, it didn't.
Does it say?
I think it said 18, 20 feet or something
Oh, is
like
it
that.
that low?
I don't know.
What is our requirement on the depth on, if we were putting it in today?
Service line's 30 inches.
30 inches below what?
Yeah,
Below
20
grade.
feet. Is that the
Below
bottom?
grade.
Yeah, 20 feet.
What you're
One
looking
length.
at is if we had to go out and replace all of the pipelines for those 15 people tomorrow, you're looking at about $150,000. But it's likely going to be something that's done on an as-needed basis and carried out over the next 10 or 15 years.
And what's this, 4,200?
That's if you're going to replace it now.
4,730? That's the total
That's
footage.
total footage.
What's the
Now it's $30 a foot.
4,200? On page 72.
2 pages up, yeah, 3 pages up.
If hydrant is needed, oh, additional cost, okay.
Okay, John, you wanted to speak to something? Lauren, I'll get to you in just a sec.
First of all, I'd like to apologize. I got off a backhoe putting in 700 feet of 4-inch, about 6:15. The question that I have is, I just got done putting in 3-inch conduit, and 300 feet, seriously, a 3-inch conduit with parallel 4-aught wire in it, a 3-inch Schedule 40 water line, a gas line, and 2 1-inch conduits for telephone and cable. And my total cost, including equipment and wire and everything, was less than $3,500. So I think you better kind of check on what it's costing you to put it under to somebody's. Second thing is, I also have a piece of property that has paid PID fees since 1923. We are currently, in fact, it may even be done already, in the process of acquiring 80 acres, of which 40 is in PID, which has already litigated with PID once over assessments. And I'm being required to pay $4,500 plus $2,400 or $2,500 for running 10-foot of line and setting a water meter. It's not equal protection. It's mysterious enough that I found a 3/4-inch water line, and it's right across the street from where you grew up, Sup. I found a 3/4-inch water line running from very close proximity to where your old line was, all the way back to my parcel. It's galvanized. How old it is, I don't know. I'm told that there was a walnut orchard and there was a line that went down to the old Lucky John mine there at one time.
Is this on track with what we're talking about? I mean, you're talking about a completely separate complaint you want to make.
I'm talking about private lines.
No, bring up your complaint at the appropriate time. We're not discussing your issues.
It wouldn't be put on the agenda because I was supposedly 20 minutes or at less than a full day late on trying to get it put on.
Well, then put it on next month's agenda.
Yeah.
Don't whine about it.
But when you're taking the public's money and taking responsibility for this, for a private line.
Was yours a private line that it was unknown or ambiguous?
Yes. There was
Ambiguous? Was it ambiguous or was it recorded? Do we have the proof? Do you know, George?
Do you have proof?
I have no idea.
Is he going to be one of the 15 or one of the...
He's not going to be
39.
anything related to this.
He doesn't have a private.
But we need to move on with the regular business.
42-1983 action. Defend it.
Lauren.
Thank you, Board, for hearing me. I too own 203 feet of line that goes down my property. PID runs 500. My question would be to the board and also to Dustin, if I might. I had to, the previous owner before me had to give an easement, a deeded easement to PID for that. And so I just remind the board, if you're going to put a pipe down this man's driveway, I don't have no dog in that race, but I know one thing, we ought to have an easement. PID ought to have a deeded easement.
Of course.
If we pay for it, of course we
Yes,
will.
we will. Yes.
So that's all I'd just like to remind the board. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I agree with that.
If we put PID pipe on any property, we should have a deeded easement for that.
Even if we don't put it there, if we just take over the
Or
responsibility
the
for
responsibility of it, then it's our deeded property. Yeah, I agree with that.
Is there any other comments from the public regarding this matter? Board? Any
I'd
other
like to hear
comments?
George's recommendation one more time. Just shortly. I mean, it's short.
Short as I can. It goes back to this one right here. So you're going to approve the district accepting any pipeline that was designated as private, but we have no information on, as a district main and authorize staff to repair and replace that as needed. And direct staff to craft a letter and a notice that can be recorded on their property for all of the remaining private pipelines that we do have owner information on.
The one condition is, do you want to make the district accepting these private lines conditioned on receipt of a satisfactory easement?
Without doubt.
Yes.
That's what we have to have.
And on the, you can craft the letter, but just as an ancillary statement, the letter to these other 33 property owners where we know that that's a private line, that we have documentation that we allowed them to do it, they were supposed to do it to district standards, and so on and so forth, they have complete ownership of it, that remind them that it is their complete cost if something needs to be done, if it develops a leak, if it gets shut off, if it breaks, whatever the case may be. And should they ever want the PID to take over that particular pipeline, then,
We're going to
depending
divide
upon
the
whether it
assessment.
meets our, whatever your standards are, or we might have to replace it, but there's going to be a cost associated to it. They can't just abandon it because we know that it's private with them. As opposed to Mr. Gronseth, just the word private written on a map, that's kind of sketchy. And even I might think a judge wouldn't side with us on that one.
Even you can?
Yeah, even me.
Even you?
Well, my family, over the years, moving here in 43, we've had several pieces of property along Wagstaff, and the most recent one was down here over off of Myers Lane that my wife and I personally owned, that had exactly the same thing. There was a line going down Myers Lane, and we had meters coming off of it. And when we had a leak in it, PID came out and fixed it for whatever reason. That was back in the 70s, actually 60s in here. So I agree with you, George. I think we should take over these 15 lines.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I'll move that we take over, as stated by George, and Georgiana's got in the minutes, that we take over these 15 private pipelines. And
Dustin's addition.
With Dustin's addition?
Dustin's additions regarding easement.
yes, they have to be an easement on here.
Well,
So what's going to happen if this passes, then we will automatically own that 2-inch line he's talking about.
Now, excuse me, and this may be crazy. Before we second that, that almost sounds like eminent domain. Don't we have to ask those people that we think might be a private owner?
They can say no.
They could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the
I
consent
don't know
of the
either,
easement
but-
would,
I was assuming that in my motion.
Me too, but then I just had a
I'm glad
last
that
minute
you brought it
thought.
out. That's a good point, Ken.
I don't know.
I would phrase it as an offer of the district to accept these private lines
Something like that. Yeah.
on condition of receipt of satisfactory easement. The second part of it is that the 33 folks receive a letter and we try to record a notice.
Yeah. And I feel, has it been seconded?
I will
No,
second.
so-
I
It's
will
been moved
second
and
that.
seconded,
Okay.
and I'll address it a little bit more as maker of the motion. I think that's a step in the right direction, Manager George, to do the right thing. And thinking back on my own family's property, we had exactly the same thing happen on Wagstaff, starting at Rocky Lane. We're talking back in the 40s, okay? And the same thing down there with pipelines, and the PID always did the right thing there. I empathize with John back here and get that on next month's agenda, even though it's not on this 60. But anyway, I didn't mean to break in there.
okay, well, let's go ahead and let's move forward. We got a lot of stuff to do tonight, so all in favor of, should we do a roll call vote? No, I think just all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any noes?
No.
No? Motion passes 4-1. Okay. Sam, but
Larry.
hope there's no problems with your pipeline.
Well, our pipeline?
Our pipe, well, and he hasn't solidified that deal with our easement, so.
Wait till you see the easement.
Yeah, exactly, I know, really, yeah, we didn't, yeah.
You'll have to take off your front porch. It needs a new roof anyway.
Our manifest
Sam.
destiny might extend a little farther than you think,
I
so.
thought that'd be a great place for a tank site. So
Yeah,
it's all about
exactly,
yours.
yeah. Okay. Item B, customer appeal regarding rate determination, review and consider request from Eddie Sanchez to be allowed to move to the residential irrigation rate for water serving his property on Nature's Way. I will make it also known as, and I think I'm going to be, I don't have to recuse myself, but I have done business with Eddie in the past, sold him windows for this house that's on Nature's Way, but since I have no financial gain in any of these actions, I don't think I have to recuse myself from
I don't think so.
anything in this.
I've sold him seed, does that count?
Okay, so and as long as I don't have any financial gain in getting water, I don't know, is that
person here?
I know, going to grow seed, okay, with water, okay.
But I
Okay.
appreciate the disclosure, guys. Good job.
Okay.
Well, I just didn't know how to act on that, and I wanted to make sure.
Well, that was good. We both had the same
That
issues.
person here.
So, General Manager Barber, if you want to lead us through this one more time.
Well, I'll let you know that the reason this is an appeal is because there's a definition that was approved by the board through our water rate process, and that is irrigation and residential irrigation accounts are defined as those using water on 2 or more acres to produce a crop for commercial use. And our staff went out, met with them, reviewed what the uses were on the property. They couldn't comfortably make the determination that fit within our definition. I'll turn it over to them to explain exactly what they do on the property, what they're using.
Oh, yes, he is here.
So just so the public understands, we made that revision
Yes,
to
here.
that in 2000.
Well, our last Prop
2011.
218 was, but the definition is actually carried on for quite a while.
Wow, okay,
long
yes.
time.
We redid it, okay.
Well, what I like to do with my property is that there's a lot of people out there that need to have food, vegetables, and all that kind of stuff, and I like to work in my garden. And also I have some cows, and I got some chickens, and I got, goats and all that kind of stuff. I would like to stand my property more, to do more things to help people out. Right now, I give to my neighbors, I give to people that need it. I just want to help out, because a lot of people, they need help. And since there's not a lot of people that can be able to help another people, I have a nice piece of property that I like to share with somebody. And I like to work in my garden, and that's why I kind of, water rights was, property went up too high, the water. And I own another properties. I'm not complaining about paying the water bill, but when you have animals and stuff like that, and you want to plant seed, and you want to plant some more fruit trees and all that kind of stuff to feed my animals and people, it costs a lot of money. So that's why I'm.
Mr. Sanchez, do you have more than 2 acres under irrigation?
Probably, yeah, not more than 2 acres. No, I like to stand more out. Like I said, I like to plant a lot more oranges and a lot more stuff, but then when I got stuck a little bit because I saw the water bill, it was changed so much, I'm going to pay $200 the water bill or more. So between my animals right now, they take a lot of water. When it's hot, they take a lot of water. My goats and everything else. So I would like to stand out to more fruit trees and extend my garden more.
So your plan is that if we make an you would have
I got
more.
a piece of garden because the water bill is too high.
Is part of that under grazing land under irrigation for the cattle, for the goats, for the whatever?
Yeah, right now I want to stand it out and I want to put some seed out there for my cattle and everything. But
And do you ever, and I mean, it's okay if you do, but do you ever sell some of the produce that you make?
no.
You consume some yourself?
I just give it to people, to the neighbors, or my wife's got an office. She take the produce over there to the office and whatever comes there, get the food.
Okay, well, do you consume the vegetables and things yourself, fruit and that?
Sorry, Ken, just to get clarification, did we do something like this for Brian over here in the, what was it called, the Paradise Produce?
No, we did.
We did a modification of some sort over there.
Modification was, we were, at that time, residential irrigation was a valid rate in the Prop 218 process. The board had a policy to no longer add residential irrigation customers.
Exactly.
And at that time, when that was brought forward, the board decided to reopen that category for customers. And so,
Which allows Eddie to now make this appeal to us.
well, yeah, yes.
It
It
opens
makes it
the
an
door for-
open door. but
Exactly.
Now the question is,
Does he meet the definition?
does it meet the definition? I
So
mean, it's-
if you sold produce, you would come closer to meeting the definition. So it's not a bad thing. One of the ideas that I brought up when I was discussing this with staff was that it is of commercial value to you because you raise your own animals. I presume you eat them at some point. You raise your own food. Yes, you give it away. You're a nice guy. But part of this would be to provide you with lower cost food alternatives than going down to Safeway or Costco or wherever it may be. And like I said, our definition says produce on 2 or more acres to produce a crop for commercial use. So what's the definition of commercial use? Is using it yourself and getting financial reward, financial benefit, a commercial use? Or does he actually need to put up a fruit stand or a vegetable stand and sell it? I'm just wondering if he doesn't already fit the definition.
Eddie, do you sell livestock?
Sometimes.
But you do sell some of your livestock to people? That's a commercial crop, right?
And that was another thing that I had asked Bill along the same line was if you have grazing land there, is the crop the grass or alfalfa or whatever this grazing land is that then sustains the pig or the cow or the goat or the chicken or whatever that then you butcher and eat or get sold for profit.
And remind me, right now, staff has determined that he does not meet the criteria.
Or
They couldn't make the decision.
one, the 2 acre was an issue, but the other was crop. We're not ag people here, and is raising livestock considered a crop, or is that just considered agriculture? We didn't define it very well, and so for me to just make that leap, it wouldn't be appropriate. That's what you guys are paid the big bucks for.
livestock under USDA is considered a sellable, not crop because you think of a plant, but is a saleable product or commodity.
Commodity is sellable.
It's on a farm schedule
Yeah, right.
for the IRS.
Are you listed under USDA as a farm?
No, I don't.
You don't go IRS as a farm? You might want to look at that, but anyway.
I have 3 acres and I get USDA livestock reports and that I'm supposed to fill out.
That's
And other things. All you have to do is be listed in USDA. When I talked to Kelly, manager at Butte County Resource Conservation District, and her and her husband have just bought a house up on Forest Ranch, and she's got, I think she told me 3 acres, and she's going to get listed for all the different programs that the NRCS provides to small farms, and will be listed by the USDA as a farmer or rancher, whatever, or I don't know, whatever term they like to use. They move them around quite a bit.
So theoretically, Eddie could get some kind of subsidizing, so to speak,
For improvements on his property.
including paying of a higher water bill.
No subsidy for water. What he would get if he wanted to, the programs are all different and they change all the time, but they pay for some things, water development for livestock troughs, fencing, and things like that. So, and I don't know what the programs are right now, but they exist and they're available to any landowner in Butte County who can define their property in such a way. So,
Well, I think, Eddie, I've been up to Eddie's property, and I think you could define it as if you wanted to, as a farm. I mean, with some changes, basically, it could be considered a farm, so it would sound like you would be eligible for some of those dollars.
Yes.
Do they allow, like Noble's Orchard, does he have a house that uses the irrigation water?
He either has a separate house, or his house is on a piece of property that is part of the orchard, so then he'd be residential irrigation. He's got multiple meters, so
Oh, he has
multiple
multiple,
irrigation.
Okay.
Quite a bit of land.
Yeah.
The reason that Eddie's is because his is not a meter just for the farming.
Correct.
And that's why
He's
it's
just,
residential.
he's just residential.
I was looking at mine here, and I'm just down the hill from you, and mine falls into the residential.
So does staff have a recommendation? Or are you leaving it totally up to us?
It makes, it's,
Go
I don't
ahead.
see any huge, just like on the last one, when you reopened it, it's not a huge issue one way or the other for the district financially or effort billing wise or anything. He would have to plant and get to his 2 acres
Yeah, that's
before he
the-
qualified.
That's,
Okay, so,
oh, it would, okay.
Grazing, it wouldn't count?
I think that's up for us to decide.
It's up for you to decide.
Oh, it doesn't right now, you're saying? Oh, okay, you don't.
There's
Staff
two
doesn't
issues.
staff doesn't think it does.
He's got the acreage, so
Right.
if you consider raising cattle, goats, etc.,
As raising a crop.
as raising a crop, and he shows that he's
To produce a
irrigating
crop.
2 acres for that purpose, then he would qualify.
I think the more qualified way to state the livestock from past experience would be a commodity. You know, it's a commodity, not a crop, because you think of a crop, but it is a crop of calves or a crop of goats or whatever it happens to be, and that's the point.
the crop is the grazing field.
Yep.
That's
And instead of harvesting it,
The alfalfa.
That's, yeah, the alfalfa that you're growing or whatever you're growing to feed.
and instead of harvesting it and selling it by the bale or whatever, he's harvesting it through his livestock.
They're just eating it.
Exactly the same thing.
So I guess if you're looking for a form of motion, and as always, Justin, jump in, the motion would be to clarify that in our rules, crop is defined as any agricultural practice for a commercial use.
Okay.
Yes,
Mr. Sanchez, did you
okay.
have something you wanted to say?
And then,
Expand it.
as far as it being effective for Mr. Sanchez, that would be, it sounds like if you implement, if you pipe and you irrigate 2 acres for this venture of,
Well, I do have more than 2 acres that can be able to be, I mean, I have the pipes in the ground, but I'm not going to turn the water on because it costs me so much money. Before I have my property, you know, and I only have the no fruit trees and no garden, no nothing, I was paying low money, you know. Now, when I have all this kind of stuff, I look at my bill last year, because they changed the meters, now my water bill every month is double what I used to pay. So I just,
great, those new meters that capture all the water.
Yeah, they actually read all the water going through them. But what I think we're saying is, though, that you're going to have to take it up to 2 acres and
He's
maintain.
saying he's already there, he's just not
He's there.
actively irrigating.
Exactly. So yeah, we're going to have to make sure that you get up to the 2 acres in order for you to qualify.
already they get in, you know, be able to get water, you know, I have the
Yeah.
pipes in and I have everything else, like a lot of fruit trees. But the guy that went up there, he just drove by, so he can see only the road, he don't see what is behind. around
I know you
my
have.
house.
I know you have to go back in there to.
More orange trees I have and everywhere else, you know, he don't see none of that. He just drove in the truck and he just passed by and he said, okay, this is, you know, I was out there and I said, can I help you? That's the only way he would talk to me about it. You know, besides that, he don't know how many acres was,
Yeah, there.
you know, all my 7 acres I have is all clear. So that's all what I want to do. He is going to have a lot of fruit trees and help people out. And my garden is a huge garden, but I can afford to say I'm going to have all that. You know, I only one person, me and her, to eat the fruit. But I like to be up there instead of me watching TV.
I know you do.
I like to be up there and helping work.
Yeah.
Keep me healthy that way instead of sitting in front of the TV. So.
You think after all that landscaping all day long, you'd think that you'd not want to be out in the garden, but you know, can't keep them out of it.
he's saying is that we can irrigate the pasture land, and he has put seed out there, but we let Mother Nature's rain, make it grow. We haven't done the actual irrigation out there, but if our water rates were lower, then he's got the water out there in order to, get the pipe in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But he would have to.
At least an acre of
How would
trees already.
how would we require that to prove that he's selling?
You'd have to give a statement,
Just sign a statement that he's selling?
probably.
Bring me a bushel of tomatoes, I'll buy them.
And we really appreciate, just so you're clear, it's a wonderful thing that you want to grow for your friends and neighbors. But as a government agency, we can't make any exceptions for charitable organizations, even just charitable people. So that's why we really have to follow the rules that we live by.
I had a quick question for Eddie. Do you give any produce to the gleaners or soup kitchens?
We don't got there yet.
Okay.
Like I
You can
said,
see
all
that's-
our fruit trees are kind of still small. Everything is still,
That's selling product.
And the thing about it, I want to give the people the food. I don't want to sell the people. I don't want to sell the fruit to the people.
I see.
Because when you start selling food to the people, you jump into a lot of problems. Because you give the food to somebody, there's somebody that need it, I'm for that.
I've been involved with that type of thing for a number of years, and like there's a meal every day at noon someplace in here, and Scotty Porter is the guy to see. If you give produce right fresh from your garden to that, it's worth money. They'll give you a receipt for it, and IRS will accept it.
Oh yeah, but then you get into a lot of.
No, you're same as giving it.
It sounds like, okay, so our motion is, do we have a motion?
We don't.
There's no motion.
I move that we provide him the residential irrigation account because I perceive that he is producing product for commercial use and that he has the ability to irrigate more than 2 acres. He just hasn't irrigated it yet because our waters cost too much.
Yeah,
Second.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Discussion,
Any more
sounds
discussion?
like he doesn't want to sell though. And that means he's not going to be commercial.
I deemed that he is.
But if he sells livestock,
Let me help you out a little bit. There's a very famous case. It's a Supreme Court case under the Interstate Commerce Clause, which is in the Constitution. And the facts of the case were a farmer was growing wheat for use on his own farm. And the government wanted to impose some kind of fee on him, and he said, "You don't have the power to do that." And they said, "Yes, we do, under the Interstate Commerce Clause." And he said, "Well, I'm not selling my wheat. I'm using it on my own farm." And the Supreme Court said that is commerce. That's because by growing the wheat yourself and using it, you're not buying it on the secondary market, and that affects commerce. So if you wanted to adopt a really broad interpretation of what constitutes commerce or commercial, you could do that. You could say he's using fertilizer, he's using his car, he's giving food to folks that use their car, So I wouldn't get too hung up on the fact that he's not selling it, doing an exchange, dollars, and cents.
I don't think I think there's a lot of people out there like him in Paradise.
With
I
2
know
acres
2
or
or
more?
3.
2 acres.
Well, they got more than that.
Then they put it under irrigation and irrigate it, then we'll give it to
In
them
fact, one of
too.
them was complaining that he was thinking about letting his fruit trees
Call him up
go.
and tell him how you
This is
save
the
him some
venue.
money.
This is the venue to bring those complaints. Sounds like so.
Let Dustin
But
handle
what
this.
I'm saying is we're gonna set a precedent, and it may cost the district a lot of money.
So I think when we determined this before, he's still paying a water rate, and the offset is not so huge that it's going to affect, because we have so few people.
You remember, it's a flat rate of what he's going to pay per month, and then
29
the additional on top
cubic
of that
feet,
is
something.
30 cents.
So he's going to be paying 12 months out of the year.
Move your
just
cursor so we can see it.
Oh, yeah.
There we
Not pointing doesn't work.
Yeah, I know, really, not your touch screen. Yeah, exactly.
16 plus $18.72. So you're billed for 26 units every month of the year. And then any usage over the 26 units is at 30 cents a unit.
Oh, okay.
So in the winter, he may have a higher winter bill than he has in the past, but he makes up for it in the summer.
Oh, okay.
So we're actually making, because he's,
So we're not losing as much as I thought we were.
no, because he's set.
Right.
So,
Well, also, and it's still my opinion that he fits. I had this conversation earlier with George today about commerce and the Supreme Court. I didn't know that I was backed with that. Holy schmolies. But it was the same argument that you raise it and you consume it, you have entered into commerce because now you're competing with Safeway, you're just feeding yourself.
So how do we change the?
We don't have to change anything.
Yeah, we do. I think we should further define
George had a-
commercial.
I think if you're comfortable with that definition, I don't think that needs to be changed. I've gotten direction from the board. What I would like a motion on is that the board officially clarifying that producing a crop includes all types of agricultural commodities.
Right.
I so move.
We're going to change the policy to say.
Well, we got one motion on the floor.
we got one motion on the floor, so.
We've got one
Seth's
motion
gotta
on the.
figure it out. how to-
Well,
Yeah.
the first motion, if there's a motion on the board, you can't put another.
No, I know it. That's what after I move that, well,
Yeah, I guess I should point that out.
no. We'll make it after the,
By
we move.
making that, you
Well-
need to realize that if someone wants to grow 2 acres of medical marijuana, they're going to qualify for the residential irrigation. I'm just doing my job by letting them know.
That's the whole story here.
I'm not saying you are.
We can't control those people anyway, apparently, so.
To be able to get it to people, to helping people out who aren't.
I gave Trevor something to write.
Oh, come on.
No, Eddie, not you, no.
I'm just clarifying.
Okay, so,
It's a plan.
So how about illegal agricultural?
Legal.
Put legal in there.
Well, growing medical marijuana is legal.
there's no
I
win,
don't
there's
think
no.
anywhere in the town approves 2 acres is allowed, so.
That's right.
It's not.
And especially with its setbacks from borders, then you got to have more than 2 acres.
So what's the motion that's before it?
Can you please read back the first
Oh,
motion?
pressure's on, Georgianne.
Yep.
Well, Director Hunt made a motion, and seconded by Director Kellogg, to provide Mr. Sanchez the irrigation residential account rate.
Okay,
Because he meets the definition.
Because he meets the definition, yes.
okay. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0.
Okay, now I'd like to get a motion to
Now,
clarify the definition.
exactly.
What do you suggest?
Didn't he already?
Yes.
Director
Did you
Fletcher.
get that motion before?
As
You wanted us to clarify, but I was just moving to what you said.
Clarifying that a crop, under our rules, is defined as any agricultural,
Any legal
any
agriculture.
legal agricultural endeavor.
Right.
I so move, even though.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of that, say aye.
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 Okay. Moving on.
I've been doing that for a long number of
you're
years,
gonna
and I
have more
never
people coming
went for
in.
the different rate.
They don't, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to call a,
Thank you guys very much.
thank you, Eddie. Thank you.
Remember to bring some tomatoes down here for sale this summer.
Yeah, exactly. We
Eddie
will
is-
buy.
Isn't that,
We're going to take a 6-minute break up until 8:30.
Ken, isn't that a bribery? That's bribery.
No, just
No,
to
I
buy.
said-
Shame we can't.
As long as I don't have to live next door to you and watch you walk by.
I might put bleachers out in the backyard.
Yeah, exactly. I know, really. Right. I had one yesterday. Okay. We went a couple minutes over. We're going to reconvene, and we will get on with item 8C. And this I'm going to turn over to Director Hunt. We brought that up, so. Director Hunt, enlighten us.
I ask that this be brought on to the agenda because kind of a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction, but we have comments from the board of director members about asking for public comments, getting public comments, about listening to the public. with their comments. And then
Thank you.
we make a statement like, well, we've listened to the public and we've heard what you say, and I guess that we're going to carry out your will, something along that line. So before I actually start in on this, I'm going to tell you that that's not our job. Our job is not to do what 40 or 50 people of the public who purport to represent 10,000 members in this area come in, or 10,000 rate-paying hookups, 26,000 people come in and make noise and say, this is my opinion and you guys need to listen to us. The public hired us, they voted us in order to represent them. And that means that we use our knowledge, we learn what's going on, we use knowledge about projecting 40 or 50 years into the future. We make the decision because the public hired us to make the decision. They have not voted us in here to listen to 40 or 50 or 60 people and succumb to the pressures that we have there. So I thought I'd put it to the test. And the public is always saying that these times are so bad. We can't afford this, we can't afford that. The times are bad. You can't spend money. And I say, okay, directors, let's stand up and take a stand then. Let's save the district $60,000 a year and ask the public whether we should have health insurance or not. And see what the public says about it. And then we make a decision as to whether we're going to listen to the public here for a short-term gain, maybe, of saving $60,000 a year or $30,000 a year, whatever it may be. Or are we going to look for the long-term health of the district? Health is kind of a pun on the health insurance deal, unintentional. And maybe make a decision that says we should be providing this insurance for the directors so the directors can stay in a position like this as they get older and their incomes go down and they're covered by insurance. I particularly want to hear what the public has to say about the fact that we are spending $65,854.92 a year for our directors' health insurance. And should we be doing that? Now, I will tell you this. I asked George, I said, because I need a health insurance. I want to continue to pay for health insurance. I want to pay it at the group rates. I don't want to cut my head off. So I asked George, can we as directors then say, okay, well, we'll pay for it from $1. George did the research, came back, gave me this memo, and said, no, that's not within the rules of the health insurance people. They will not allow us to do that. Because it's a group insurance, and for the directors, the district must cover at least the single advantage program. So my idea of having the directors pay for it from $1 cannot be accomplished. So when George wrote up this little letter that he just passed out, he's given the current cost and then the employee-only Advantage plan cost and the employee-only Classic plan cost. So if we were to, even though we can't go back and say that we'll have the directors back down to $0 and pay from the first dollar on, we could move our annual cost from $65,854 down to $27,565 or down to $32,384 if we wanted to pay for the Classic plan for all the directors. And so, what does the public have to say about that? Public, do you think that you should be buying health insurance for the directors?
John? Wait just a second, Loretta. John, you had your hand up first.
What does the town do? The town requires the employees to pay a percentage of their health care. I don't think they're giving the councilman any health care. What is the standard practice of districts and municipalities? And I mean, I know that the school board, I believe that the school board pays the health insurance. it could be a big savings, and I don't think you can get a fair market share or a fair input from the public of having it be an item that nobody even knew was going to be on there. I was planning on coming tonight. I wish I would have been here 10 minutes earlier. I'd like to see the newspaper run an article on it for next month, and let's find out from the public whether the public thinks that the directors should get any, all, or some. I don't know what the school district does as far as the spouses and family. This is something that caught me by the spur of the moment, and I think it's rightful to give the public an opportunity to do a little bit of research and make their decision. And I don't think that just having the health care makes or breaks whether somebody's going to run for PID. And to another one of your comments, yes, the public put you into the seat. The public can also recall somebody, and it's their vested right to do that. And I believe that you have an obligation when you take a seat to the public. Yes, there is a vocal majority. Sometimes the vocal majority is in best interest. Sometimes it isn't.
A vocal majority, or you mean vocal minority?
Could be either.
Okay.
It could be either. But I don't think it's right to the public. Nobody goes to your website and checks your agenda every month to see what's on it. Let the newspaper run an article 3 days or 5 days before next month's reading, and or next month's meeting, and have it so they know, and let them show up. If they don't like it, they can tell you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Loretta, you were next.
And I don't think that the public really cares whether you get health insurance or you don't get health insurance. I kind of agree with Sam.
John,
whatever his face is, I couldn't even find your agenda under your website today. So that's George's fault.
Well, we know.
Got to hold those kind of
give you a training session?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We got to start holding those comments.
But you guys do deserve some pay to put up with all of us. I sometimes don't like the fact that you get $100 per meeting, because you sure have a lot of meetings some months. But I don't mind that you have health insurance. I know if you're on the school board, they get health insurance. If you're on the town council, they get zilch. I think Larry knows you didn't get paid anything.
Yeah, you got paid $161 a month.
I know I was on
You
the
don't?
planning
Well, I know
board.
they cut it.
Yeah, for a few months I got $35 for gas. And so you're probably one of the better paid boards in this town. I don't think any other board gets complete health insurance plus their $100 a meeting or whatever you get. So maybe you do need to put this in the paper, see what the public thinks.
I think you just cut off your nose despite the face.
That'll be at the Post's discretion whether or not they run that.
Depends on what the vote is.
I think Mr. Hunt opened a can of worms.
I think so too.
Lauren.
Thank you, Board. I'm going to disagree somewhat. I feel as though you should get some sort of health insurance that we should pay for, commensurate with what the management gets for being on the board. I think that you get a very small amount of money for this job. We all appreciate it. Sometimes we disagree with your decisions. Sometimes we agree. But I think health insurance is, especially when the public can look at it and see that it's mainly a more seasoned board, and so I think that it would only be wise for us to keep you guys healthy. If you didn't feel good, you've got 4 years to really foul this up. So in my view, I too would like to see it put in the paper and see what the rest of the people think. But from my perspective, you deserve some sort of health benefits, that's true. So, and I also know that some people on the board got their own and they don't accept it anyway, so
They do what?
some people on the board have their own health insurance and they don't accept PID's health insurance. So it's not like it's a huge thing, you know what I mean? And in the scheme of things, the health insurance is probably valuable, even though I know I was against a few other raises and things. But that's, when you look at the totality of it, you guys are not getting anything compared to what it costs us for a lot of this stuff. So I think you deserve some sort of health insurance. But I would like to see you put it in the paper if you're really interested. Otherwise, just take my advice and keep the health insurance.
Thank you, Lauren. And good choice of words there, seasoned. Yeah.
Seasoned, yeah.
Seasoned, yes.
That's old guys.
Is there anybody else in the public who wanted to comment? No? Any other board members have any comments?
Well, I'm one of them that I do not have the health benefits. I became an employee of Butte Community College in 1970, and anyone hired between 1970 and 1986 have lifetime health benefits. That's what they were doing to attract people out there at that time. That had more than 10 years. I retired with over 30 years at Butte College. But when I signed on here, George and Kelly, actually, I guess it was. Wendy, thank you. How could I forget Wendy? Well, anyway, Wendy looked into it, and because I didn't want it for a variety of reasons, but I had to sign up, and I haven't got my card yet, and I haven't used it, for vision and dental.
You don't get a card.
You don't get a card.
Oh, I don't get a card.
It's just based on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway,
Social Security.
so it was mandatory that I sign up for those two, and that was fine because I didn't have those. But I'm one of the members that don't have that. I've been blessed because of my past employment.
And to clarify, you don't take the PID's health insurance because it would void your PERS
Exactly.
health insurance
Precisely.
lifetime.
Which is better.
It would take you out of it, and you wouldn't want to be out of
No,
it.
absolutely not.
No, absolutely not.
Well, my comment is, when I came on this board 10 years ago, I was told by the manager, Ray, that Stan didn't even take the payment per month, per meeting. And my comment to him was, Stan knows what he's worth. So my feelings is if I'm not worth this amount of money, you shouldn't have me on this board.
You know Stan just passed away.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No,
I'm sorry.
I wondered if you did.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
He just passed away.
But anyway, what I'm getting at is PID can't afford to pay us what we're worth, but giving us what they do, I think, is fair. We get less than the South Feather gets, because they get $600 a month, whether they make any meetings or not. We have to make the meetings. So when Rick was missing the meetings, he wasn't getting paid. And I like that, because I want an encouragement for people to be here. And so I like that. Also, too, we voted that we would go along with the management group on our fringe benefits. So therefore, if we were to give up ours, well, then we'd probably have to ask management to give up theirs too. Right? And I don't think they'd go for that.
I don't think that's the case.
Well,
just to clarify.
I know. Good point there, Kevin. And I will say
They didn't like that, did they?
When I took this position on PID, it was about as you all know, I worked for Miller Glass, and we had insurance there. And Wendy called me, and she said she was getting all this information. I said, "What's all this information for?" And she says, "Well, your health insurance." I said, "What are you talking about? What health insurance?" So actually, when I took this position, I didn't even realize that there was health insurance involved. I thought it was the $100 a meeting. That was it. That was the most compensation I was going to see. And believe me, sometimes with the amount of hours we put into these packets, $100 works out to about 30 cents an hour. So it's not huge compensation by any means. But the health insurance does make it a little more enticing. So does offset some of those tedious months, should I say.
I know I already spoke, but could I just add just one thing?
Let's make one more comment.
The other thing, Board, thank you for hearing me, but the other thing is by paying you folks health insurance, we, in theory, attract good people who want the job. And thereby, there should be, hopefully the public will put forth 3 or 4 people for every division because people do want the benefits. So I say it's an attraction to attract good people to the job. It may not have been in the past. I don't know. I haven't been attending the boards forever. But that's my intention. My intention is it'll attract good people for the job. Thank you.
I agree.
This sounds a lot like if we would pay a general district manager a nice high salary that we would be able to attract a good.
We'll stay on track here
district
tonight.
General manager.
Is there any more discussion?
I just want to clarify, because you did just get this memo, so you all understand the rules. And I have to apologize because I didn't understand the rules and relate them to the board well enough when they made the decision to add this. But once you have made the decision to be on health care, any single director has an option when they start their term to either take health care or not. Once that decision is made, it cannot be rescinded throughout the entire term. Secondly, you must be covered by the minimum single plan of the district, which is single advantage. So the only way to unwind the decision to give health care is if 3 board members that came on board on one term all elected to not take health care, and then 2 years later, the remaining 2 that were elected also determined they did not want health care, then you could unwind that decision through Aqua JPIA. But that's what it would take.
Okay.
And there also is no option for the board members to buy the health insurance that we offer
for the families
until they are either basically terminated or not elected anymore. Then you have the option for Cobra at that point. But if you're still a quote-unquote employee of the district, which being a director you guys are, you would not have the availability of having those Cobra options available to you.
And were you able to determine for me what the cost of the Cobra would be? Because my concern...
I'm sorry, it's high.
My concern was, from what I've seen with other companies, and I don't know what it would be like with ours, but my concern is that the Cobra cost for an employee who leaves the employment, of the group employment, is much higher than the actual group cost for the exact same coverage.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to find that, but we're under the assumption that you'd have the same buying power.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to work on an assumption.
And we'll find out.
Yeah.
When you asked that question, I went right into another meeting, and then
Yeah,
I didn't
okay.
get to it.
Also, is there a time limit on Cobra?
Yeah, there's a statute.
30 days or something.
18 months.
18 months.
Oh, sure, yeah.
18 months.
And you have to sign up for it within what, 30 days of...
I think you have 60 days.
60 days of severing employment?
Is it Director Hall on Cobra?
Yeah, he has the opportunity to have Cobra.
Well, I did, in fact, I was talking
that
to the
would tell
gentleman
us
back here in
the
the
cost.
back. The last time I run against an incumbent for an office that we were talking about, I lost by 0.1%. And I have been advised by very competent election-type people that if you're running against an incumbent, you want a campaign. And that's what I told Director Hall out there in the porch. And I did that because I enjoy it. And even though the first time I lost by 0.1%, and that's why I really campaigned. Well, I like it because I started meeting all kinds of people around the district. And I'm kind of like President Obama. I'm still out there campaigning. It looks like going to coffee at different places. I was at 2 different places this morning.
But you're not spending as much money as ours.
Oh, that's for sure. In fact, he's taken quite a bit of my $100, I might add. And but anyway, I had 2 people that are very competent. Frugal would be the word. And they said and they were talking about the directors, and they think we deserve our medical. And they know that I don't want it, but they think we do because of the stuff that we go through, which I enjoy. But anyway.
Is there any more comments? Thank you, Director Flesher. No? Moving on. Item 8D. Forest Health Assistance Contract with Butte Resource Conservation District. I will turn this over to General Manager Barber.
Okay, you have my written report. let me just kind of get you to where I got here. Went to a Fire Safe Council meeting where they presented appreciation awards to Greg Dobbs and David Orr for their work on the work we've done up on the grant work, 60 acres that we're about 3/4 of the way or more through. And so our entire west side in the last few years has been shaded fuel braked, I guess is a bad way to say it. But all the brush and everything, all the underbrush has been removed, the trees have been limbed up, and as you walk through that forest, there's still a lot of trees that are very close to each other. It's still a dense forest in many areas. What we learned from our forest health assessment was doing nothing is not the proper thing to do. So I came up with the idea of now is the time to potentially do some thinning in that section that we've completed. And I talked to Kelly Peterson, I think it is now, to see if they would have the time and their board would be willing to give her the time to contract out with her to handle a request for proposals for a registered professional forester to look at that lands and come up with a prescription to do any thinning that was necessary. Any contract for the forester would be with PID, so she would help in the selection process. She would help maybe make a recommendation on which person to choose, work in concert with the local environmental groups, and that was another key benefit. By turning it over to an outside, somewhat party whose responsibility is resource conservation, it gives the public, should give the public a comfortable feeling that we are letting the experts and those that are concerned about conservation do the right thing in our forest that will protect our watersheds and protect the forest. And I even have my thoughts as I continue to explore this would be to actually in those very hard to access areas drop the trees that need to be dropped that are determined by this forester, have the fire crews come in and limb them and either chip or burn the limbs, and then leave the log there for ecological reasons, water bars, and just leave it there. Now, after telling this to Greg, he suggested a great suggestion. He said, up in the flatter, more accessible areas, we probably want the harvester to take those logs out because the local wood people that want to get wood for burning will go in there and do more damage than a professional logger would. So what I'm, and the reason another reason I'm talking about bringing it to them is I don't have time. We've got processed water recycle project. We got water rights firing up. The EIR is going to start getting busy. We got a corporation yard, and I don't have the time to see this through. I don't have the expertise, and I think there's benefits to kind of turning it over to an agency that has that in their world. And what I have envisioned, so you can see on here, hopefully you can see, it's a little dark. This section right here is what the 30 acres that they completed this winter. And we kept a nice setback from the creek so that we're not worried about any damage to the creek.
This is Magalia?
This is between Magalia Dam and Paradise Lake.
Okay.
There's a section in here that is Forest Service parcel, and they are working on their own to do their clearing, and I think there's some thinning planned there. And then the last part of the project we're working on, which was a second grant, is 30 acres down in this area.
We're working on that right now, George,
Yes.
right? Yes.
What is the white thing? The
This
white,
right here?
Yeah.
That is a rock section of serpentine rock.
Oh.
That's full of McNabb cypress, a protected species.
Is that where they were going to burn?
Yeah, yeah, and they're still working on plans for that. They're really appreciative of our work to try and help protect that area if they do burn it. A couple years ago, this section down here, Dogtown Road, we have ownership down through here. That was done a couple years, 2 or 3 years ago. So what I'm envisioning is bringing on this forester to take a look at what we own from down here at Magalia Dam, all the way up on the west side, all the way through our ownership to Paradise Dam. And that is kind of the front lines of protection for this whole community here. So we get watershed protection, you get some protection for doing the right thing in the event of a forest fire that may make it into the community. I don't think the end project's going to be very costly for the district. If we just bring someone in to drop trees in hard to access places and do a little bit of removal in the flat spots, it may even be a wash between the wood they can take and the work they have to do for the areas they don't have to take. So that's what this is all about. I do want to apologize. There was an Exhibit A in the packet that was from our previous agreement. It doesn't apply to this proposed contract.
And right now, you're just looking for a direction to, or motion to execute the agreement with Butte RCD.
Negotiate it.
Yes.
We would still be using CDF crews or correction crews for the
As we
brushing.
can. As we can. And keep in mind, I highlighted it and made a note. These were the rates that were on our previous contract. I'm not even sure Alexis is still with them at this point.
No, she hasn't been for years.
And so that is still a point of negotiation for them to present what the hourly rate would be. But I brought this forward because we had that previous contract, and it kind of stumbled and bumbled and fell because they had changing managers. Well, when Kelly came on board, she really picked up the ball and ran with it, saw it to completion, and did a very good job.
I have the handout that was handed out here on August 9th, I think, which was my second meeting attending in the public, and I thought it was really good. I was very impressed with it. As you know, I have quite a concern on the watershed. In fact, I was just up there looking around. In fact, I have some 4-H kids up there, and it's not all on it's not on PID ground, but I hope and pray that there's no fire, because all we'd be worrying about is ashes, because it would be a holocaust because of the brush load and the fuel load on there. But I was noticing on this one, their report that they gave on this August 8th or whatever the day, August 9th, I guess it was really good. And I noticed that it was even on that date, but then since I went back and reviewed it, the payment started on 8/26/09, and then there was 11/23. Well, anyway, 4/10, and apparently they really didn't get even started until 12, right? Almost, yeah. So do you see that kind of a hesitation again since Kelly's aboard?
No, she's the one that, when she came on board, she grabbed it and got it done.
She's the one that finished it up.
Yeah.
It was the changing of the guard that was slowing the process. I understand.
I understand it falls by the wayside. And now is this Toster? S. Toster? Is he a forester? Registered forester?
Steve.
He has come down here. K. Miller. That's Kelly. Yeah, Peterson's Kelly. Anyway, there's 2 or 3 people here. One of them gave a report, and it must have been. It was a lady.
Kelly.
Kelly. Okay.
Kelly's.
And that was Kelly Miller, and she really did a good one. She talked about the fuel load over a section of that, and I think they'd already cleared it by the time we went up there to that open house. There was, I got it down in here, 200 trees per acre, and most of them were 2 inches or less, which means it was a stack of kindling just waiting to go up, and hell, you could have every fire truck in the North State parked there. If the weather was just right, it would take off.
Well, and none of those trees will grow because there are too many.
Yeah.
They need to be thinned.
The brush density is just wild.
We need a good fire.
So do I have a motion?
We would have a good one too, I'll tell you.
That's how Mother Nature takes care of it.
Yeah, but they did it over, that hasn't had a fire in 100 years.
Okay.
I move approval to authorize the general manager to execute an agreement with the Butte County Resource Conservation District, subject to review and approval to form by legal counsel. with the understanding that no project is being approved and the CEQA process will be completed prior to any work being completed.
And that would come back to us.
Do I have a second?
Wait, would that come back to us for final approval?
Well, we discuss it after the second.
Okay, second, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
second.
yes, he will.
Okay, good.
Do I have a second?
Public comment.
I'll second that.
Did you say you'll second? I thought you said you weren't going to second it, so
No.
yes,
What's
I've
your
got you,
statement?
John.
I was wondering why he
I was
wasn't
just wondering,
here.
well, that would come back to the board for final approval,
What are you asking will come back to the board?
the final thing,
The contract?
yeah, the contract.
No. That's
won't?
not the way it's been presented.
No, that isn't.
Yeah, that's right.
If the $55 an hour turns into $550 an hour, oh yeah, I'll bring it back to you. But it won't.
But you should, like, this one here was.
What will
this
come
one here
back
was
is the-
$25,000.
Is the CEQA is going to have to happen before.
That is a very good point. In that contract, we had a not to exceed rate.
Not to exceed 25,000.
Didn't you say you
Are we
didn't
going to
want?
have that, or the one that we just moved and seconded?
This one is open-ended, but it's got a 30-day cancellation because it's not a project that I think we should force them into a not to exceed because they're not really in the position to guesstimate how many hours it's going to take.
Yeah. That was a discussion we had last week, or whatever it was, on this thing with Bill. Because they're not in that business. I've worked with the one, not so much in this county, but in Glenn County, I've worked with quite a bit. And they're not in any position to do that. And although they have quite a staff over there.
Okay, so Director Kellogg had some comments.
There's several, but I think the most important one is that Butte County Resource Conservation District gave Kelly the okay to negotiate, and it hasn't been accepted by them, this contract or proposed contract. She's to negotiate with PID about a contract that will include wages and everything else, but there's some other things that need to be done. And I actually think that this thing should go to this conservation committee you're talking about and be reworked. I have no objection to the Butte County Resource Conservation District being involved. I have an objection to how this was negotiated, pretty much by George presenting it to them without any notification to this board in advance of this. And one of the problems I think we have as a board with whatever way you want to call it is that the manager should bring proposed contracts, ideas to the board before approaching any other agency or thing to get the board's approval going into it. Now, this is what Kelly Peterson has done at the Butte County Resource Conservation District. She took the proposal to her board and ask them their opinion and vote on it before doing anything with PID. Now she has approval from her board to negotiate with PID, but not, as far as I understand, the contract that George has formatted here to go into it. So I would think what we'd want to, if you want to do this, is say, okay, let George and Kelly negotiate, and then the terms come back to the both boards. And that gets everybody a fair thing at it. The reason...
Do you want to make an amendment to the...
No, I want what's up stand on its own and get a vote on it. But amendment would be to have it come back to the board, not give a formal approval to this, because I don't think it's ready for approval. The other board has had not a chance to negotiate it, and she's going to take it back to her board for their approval before anything can happen. So, in a way, it's not approved by Butte County Resource Conservation District until Kelly finalizes the wages and anything else that's in it and takes it back to her board.
Can we make an amendment to it?
Well, it sounds like what you're saying is that they have to go through all the process of
Determining their labor.
determining what it is and getting it approved by the board, And then after their board makes a decision, then they come back to negotiate with George, and what if it's not acceptable to George or to us?
No, they're going to negotiate with George.
These guys were talking about getting together and negotiating it. But that's two ways to do it.
Well, Ken, you didn't have the thing straight. The string straight is the board has instructed Kelly to negotiate with George and then bring it back to their board for approval.
And then
their board has not approved what you have in front of you.
Right. Nor have we.
No, and I think we should allow them to negotiate back and forth and come back to us. I'd also like to have what I talked about last week under different circumstances is that there's a next thing on the agenda is a conservation board, a committee. Have it go to that committee. The committee, if it has Doug Fletcher on it, has somebody of knowledge and skill in this business, and then have them come back to the board here with the suggestions, which a committee does. And what I have here is like the forest assessment program. The forest assessment is what they finally ended up with. But to make this work, if you look under the title sheet on it, it's prepared by Beth Stewart, project leader, silviculturist, USDA Forest Service, VMS Enterprise Unit, and Laureen Payne, executive officer, silviculture, USDA Forest Service. This is a Forest Service report. And this is how they had to get the expertise to do the program. Inside the Butte County Resource Conservation District and the NRCS, which backs them up, there is not this kind of competency to do this right now. So that's the other part of it. So I probably have said too much, but at any rate, that's my opinions.
Even though I second the motion, Mr. President, I just don't like an open-ended thing. I've worked for a number of boards, and I've been on some other boards, and nothing against you, George, or anybody else. I just like to see the bottom line, whether it be the number of hours, and I realize they're guessing, but that's part of this negotiation. Even though I seconded, that's why in its standard form I would have to vote against it, because of the fact that I think we as a board need to see a $25,000 not to exceed, or whatever it happens to be. And they may have a problem coming up with that. And we could, after they get going and see what we like, we could amend that. If they come back and say, hey, we need more money, then we'll take a look at it and say, yeah, they need more money. That's very feasible.
Can we not just amend this motion to say that once George has executed the agreement with them and they come back with their numbers from their board, that we then get a chance to take a look at it? You said that's not generally the standard procedure on that.
No, it doesn't. That's a normal procedure.
That's a normal.
Okay.
Let me just follow up.
George, we want to hear.
I understand your points, Bill. They're valid. Some of them I don't agree with. One is when I went to RCD, it was to find out if they were even willing to embark on this process, number one, and were they willing to let Kelly spend the time to do this. I never, ever propose anything without the clarification that my board has not approved this yet. It's a concept at this point. You guys always have the final say. Secondly, regarding the form of this contract, to me, if it's $55 an hour versus $75 an hour, will that really make a difference on whether you approve it or not? The concept was time and materials. We get a bill every month. If you want me to report what they've billed every month, I can, and you have a 30-day chance to stop it and kick it over.
It's actually quicker than that. They have to stop work immediately, but you terminate in 30 days.
You terminate the contract in 30 days, but
as far as expertise, we're looking for Kelly's expertise in what she's shown in collaborating with others, community groups, etc. Because the person that determines what happens out there is the registered professional forester that you'll ultimately choose. No one else can do that work unless you're a registered professional forester. So that's why it came about this way. So if you want to see the final document, you know about the project, everything's on board up on the table, then the best thing to do is to kick it to old business until we get their response. And lastly, if the board wants to be involved and use their expertise, then you can create an ad hoc committee for this project and have Kelly consult with that committee along the way and appraise them of what's going on in the process, how it's going, etc. If you want to stay involved, that's the way to do it.
The only concern I have is based on some other things that I've been involved with. I like to see a bottom line. Like when I read this and it said $25,000 maximum, that keeps everything on top of the table, you know. And let's say we put $25,000 again, just for figures, and they get going on this, and we see what we like, what we see, and they say we're running out of money. So instead of them quitting, we could move to put an additional amount. You know, you see,
that's fine.
or we
I
can take
told them that I was going to propose a contract without a not to exceed. But that's ultimately up to my board to decide.
Yeah, and before I even before I can vote yes on this, I don't want to do anything to stop this process, because, you know, and that's why I asked the question about 2009 not being on the board and all this.
If we can amend it, is because
I wish I could blink my eyes and have it all done. You know, for the fire.
Any motion you want.
Yeah.
Why don't you amend it?
Doug, why don't you amend it?
I so amend.
What do you amend?
Okay. I amend that we have a bottom line derided by both you and the people down there, and to come back to us for approval.
Just add a not to exceed clause.
Not to exceed, yeah.
Okay. I would like
Do I have a second?
a formal vote on that, because that's important for them to know.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
But, okay, good.
Okay, any more discussion on that then? Vote on the amendment to not to exceed and to be brought back to the board prior to commencement of any contract.
And we didn't put a dollar amount on the not to exceed. You guys will negotiate that.
And they're going to have to bring it back to us, and then
Yeah.
we can decide a not to exceed amount. Roll call vote
Director Fletcher?
On the amendment.
on the amendment.
Yes.
Director Head?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
Yes.
Director Duncan?
Yes.
President Crowell?
Yes, passes 5-0. To the original motion.
To the amended motion.
To the amended motion.
To the original motion
Too
as
many
amended.
amended originals. To the amended motion. Roll call vote. George would like to make a comment.
You haven't allowed the public.
Oh, yeah, that's
before you
true.
took your final vote.
Okay. Yeah.
If so chose.
I thought I asked, but okay.
No.
Sorry. Public, do you have a comment?
And one question that I've got, I was told that this $150 parcel tax or fee was to backfill CDF's consulting forestry program. From what I understand, they have brought in, or are bringing in, people to work under, I don't know if Chief Kendricks is still there, similar positions that are RPFs, that their job is or is going to be providing this consulting service and funded out of the $150 parcel tax. Now, I did this work from 2008 to 2011.
This is Magalia residents that pay that, so I don't know if that applies or if it applies to PID
It
land.
is a statewide program, and the land is located in the unincorporated district. I would suggest that before you do a contract with anybody, you get a hold of Chief Kendricks or Jim McDaniels, who are our two foresters in this unit, and ask them. I've worked under, they had a consulting forester that was providing this type of services that was shared between two units. They were doing it for free, they were writing the prescriptions, they were doing a good job. It's out there. Whether it went away, I believe it. I was told that it was being back funded now with this $150 parcel tax, and that was going to reinstating that program. Before we spend $55 an hour for a consultant to recommend a forester, it might be worthwhile just to give CAL FIRE a call and ask them, do we have a consulting forester in this unit that is available to provide this service? Because they had in the past, and the paperwork that I got said that they were again.
Okay, we'll have George, someone on staff or yourself look into that. But we aren't making any contract with anybody until it comes back to the board, so we won't have to worry about us spending money until we have all the answers.
I have a comment on that. The amendment was to bring the contract back to the board. The original motion you read from iPad page 81.
Exactly.
Which was authorizing the manager to
Yes,
execute the agreement.
but the amendment had two features to it. One was a not to exceed clause, and the other one was to bring it back to the board for a
That's my
final
point. I just
approval.
want to make sure that's clear, that
It's clear to
you're
me.
not authorizing the manager to execute anything.
Right.
You're authorizing him to continue to negotiate and bring something back to the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the CD, with the.
So therefore, he could look into the other thing too and have no effect on.
Got a bunch of smart guys over here. We're on top of it.
We appreciate your input.
We're seasoned.
I'd like to comment on one other thing. Today I looked up to see how many registered professional foresters there were in the state, but what I ended up finding is that there's 6 of them, at least 6 between Chico, Magalia, and Paradise that have residence here. I don't know who they work for or anything else, but they were under the group as consulting professional foresters. So we have the knowledgeable people right in our own community.
You better give that to your board that you're an advisor to.
Although, first I got to get appointed. So.
Oh, you haven't got
More
appointed.
discussion? Comments? Public? George, you had raised your hand. Did you want to?
I told you to let the public.
Oh, that's what you're raising your hand for. Okay, thank you.
I don't know that I'll be able to find the answer. That may be a question that RCD has to chase out as part of their process.
On the $150 thing?
Exactly, because
That's a gray zone now, I think.
Yeah.
Well, half the point of this is it takes time to do all this stuff.
Right.
Roll call vote on the amended motion.
Director Fletcher?
Yes.
Director Hunt?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
Yes.
Director Duncan?
Yes.
President Corley?
Yes. Passes 5-0. Okay, let's try to make the next item just as lengthy as that one. So, okay. Item 8E, this was brought around by me. We had talked about this before last year. We've seen a couple members from the public. One, Ward Habriel is very adamant about getting this conservation program going, or a committee going to some extent. We heard him a couple meetings ago, and we heard him about 4 meetings back also. So, as I expressed to him, we just had a lot on our plate recently, and I just haven't had a chance to get to this. So I would like to ask the board if we would do a standing conservation committee. I would like to include members of the public and 2 members of the board, obviously, on there. I wondered if we had any objections to that, or if we could have a motion towards that effect.
Since you're looking at me, President Corolla, when I looked at this, I thought, great that it came from you, because I was kind of thinking of that, but I wasn't so much thinking of conservation. I'm always thinking of conservation of water, but I was thinking of the watershed and everything else. Is that what you're thinking of?
No, this is
That's what we would need clarification, because where Director Kellogg was going with it was not what I
the way I'm
envisioned.
going.
So I'd like clarification. Is this a water
education, conservation efforts, and maybe a future program that could be brought up when we go to our Prop 218, when we look at rates the next time, that would maybe have a certain percentage of, we discussed like tier 3, users would then pay in a certain percentage that would be dedicated to conservation products, I guess I would want to say, such as
whatever the committee came up with.
whatever we came up with, exactly. So but I want to get some discussions out there. We're doing great. I think that Ward brought up that, we're doing great with the 2020, but the 2020 isn't, just fixing leaks isn't the end all. We got to educate the community. Wendy has done a great job with the WET program, educating the students. I don't know how many years has that been going? 6, 7?
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the kids seem to love it. There's always great. 7th year? 5th year. Okay. So that's a great project. We start them young. We educate them young. I think we all tell our kids, turn off the lights. They walk down the hallway and they got 19 lights on in every room. We start educating them there. Same thing with water. Got to start educating them that you can't just stand out there with the hose and let it run. Don't brush your teeth and having water run. There's a lot of little things, and it all adds up. That 10 million gallons a day that we process is made up by all those little things. It's not just people out watering their gardens. It's all those little things that we tend to waste water on. So I wanted to get this together. It's not conservation in the forest conservation aspect of it. It is conservation in water conservation and education. Is that the clarification that?
That's what everyone agrees on.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I
that's what
just need to know one way or the other.
We're looking for water conservation, not forest conservation.
It's a wonder the ward isn't here this
watershed.
evening with this.
Well, that is, I'm going to take responsibility for that. We had a letter from
the agenda
Ward.
because he's talked to me more than once on it when I was campaigning again, and
this
his
is-
idea on this is workshops to show people how to irrigate and all this kind of stuff.
There's going to be
And
some things
I know
we
he'd
do.
be very happy on that particular one.
And I take full responsibility for not notifying Ward, and that is because I had a conversation with George. George took the initiative from my conversation and put this on the agenda, and I did the Home and Garden Show this last week, and I got from Tuesday till Tuesday yesterday was just a big blur. And so when I talked to George, found out that it was on there, I did not call Ward. And I'd had a conversation with Ward. I saw him in Costco. We had a short conversation, said I'd like him to be part of this committee. And then by my own fault, I did not have the follow-up conversation with him. And when I talk to him, I will take full responsibility.
I don't think you have to take a
I think he wanted to be here tonight. I don't think he could be here tonight because he had a prior commitment, but still, I should have had the
I don't think
conversation.
you need to apologize because you're doing the best you can.
Well, it's I had told him I wanted to do this, and then I dropped my own ball. So if it pleases the board, I would like to create a standing conservation committee with 2 board members. I myself would like to be on that, and I would look for another board member to be on it.
I'd be happy to be on that.
And I think Director Flesher is already kind of in this earlier conversation. And Ward Habriel is a member of the public. I had thought about making the person from the public the chair on there, and I maybe had a little reconsideration of that, and I think that I will make Director Flesher the chairperson on that committee, if that would be okay with you.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
I have no problem with Ward being that, though, but I would be happy to be that to get it started.
I didn't know if we can always, I think we can change off at the beginning of next year. We can change those seats, right?
Well, the president will populate it.
Yeah, the president will populate it, yeah, next year.
The thing that pleases me, President Corolla, is that you came up putting people on from the citizenry at large, because, to me, a 2-person committee, and I have no offense, which isn't as function as well as like our lake committee, where we have all kinds of ideas.
And I would look for more people to be on it. I think we can add people to the committee.
Maybe one of our
public.
I think probably the best thing would be to put it on our website, and you and Ward talk around to the garden club.
Yeah.
And we'll get a couple more people to present to the board, and then when we kind of get a full group, then we'll get it kickstarted.
Yeah,
exactly.
Is there any of our employees that we would want to ask?
I'll talk around.
Yeah,
I'll talk staff.
See,
about it.
and I realize that the lake committee, even though I've only attended one meeting, other than observed one actually, is just too much. But I kind of wonder if we don't need to look at having a committee for lack of a better term, that does look at our forest health, the watershed or something at that particular point. And that one, and in fact, I was forming that in my mind, would be 2 committee people, two board members, and an individual like Jim and Greg on it, and a citizen at large. Maybe it's one of these 6 foresters that we have that are not wanting to go and get a job.
Well, based on the way the Lake Committee's gone over the years, I would probably recommend you change their charge, because they've kind of always handled that in the past.
Very good. Yeah, I agree. I don't have any
I was going to say, just add it into their docket of stuff
But we might have to meet more often, at least sometime during the years that apparently we meet, because this last time, remember, we're meeting on April 10th, kind of blend in with Fish Day. So, and Ken is the chair of that, so.
So are you okay with being the chair? Do you want me to be the chair, or?
I'll be happy to be the chair.
Okay, all right.
We need a motion.
I need a motion, yes.
Because it's a standing committee, so if I
Exactly.
recall, your rules provide that a standing committee be created by the full board. So
Yeah, Ken. I thought we were gonna, I don't recall, we were changing the policy. Is that at the committee level?
We haven't implemented that yet, have we?
And I think it was still worded on standing committees. It was kind of.
Well, let's just do it anyhow.
Do a motion today, yeah.
It's on the agenda. It's just cleanest to do it.
I can make the motion, right?
Somebody forgot to say action may be taken on the agenda.
Can't do anything.
Doesn't say information only either.
Really?
No. Okay, so I make the motion to create a standing conservation committee consisting of Director Flesher and President Corolla, and a member from the, at least one member from the public right now, Ward Habriel, which I'm sure will take the position, with Director Flesher as the chairperson of the committee.
You want to add water to that?
Can it be called the Water Conservation Committee?
I like that. Okay, thank you. We will call it the Water Conservation Committee.
I'll second it.
Yes, so that we know what conservation.
I'll second it
We have a
since you
second.
put water in there.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Not in favor?
Me.
Okay. Passes 4-1. And we will move into doing some discussion as to we'll put it on the website and see if we can get some more public input into it or entice some more of the public to join it. Item 8F, grant application, Paradise Lake North Boat Launch. Consider adoption of Board Resolution 2013-04, authorizing the application for funding from the Department of Boating and Waterways. I really think this is kind of a no-brainer. We talked about this. We're just applying for a grant on there and see what the state comes back with, correct?
Yeah, but I'd like to clarify something. Let me see if I put that in there.
Well, I didn't say you weren't going to get a chance to talk. I just said it's a no-brainer.
You can't really see it here, and I apologize because I thought I had those up for the computer. But there's a section to access this. This is a boat launch too, and I can actually just utilize my tools and show you.
There it is.
Here's our current boat launch. They did not want to develop one there because there's very little PID ownership. And so parking was an issue. We brought them over to show them this section. This used to be a borrow area for the construction of the raise of the dam. And so this line kind of right through here is the access road. This little piece right here, we've gotten an easement from a private party for. This section all the way through here is over SPI land. And as I said in my memo, I'm going to be meeting with them tomorrow in Sterling Reservoir. I'm going to pull them aside and talk about potentially granting us an easement, still trying. But and you still have time to back out, but you need to know that your fallback position is these grants are awarded for a 20-year period project. So you would be responsible for operating and maintaining the launch for 20 years if you were awarded the grant. If we did not get an easement from SPI, we could still receive the grant if the board commits to paying back the grant dollars on a prorated basis over 20 years.
Essentially a loan.
So then it turns into a loan at that point. if we were somehow to lose access. Just want you to be aware. I don't want that to be a surprise to you.
What was the total amount again?
620,000, I think.
So 30,000 a year.
Is there enough property of ours to even put in another road? Because that's just a dirt lane. There's not much to it at all.
We looked at it. We couldn't get there. Our property pinches in too much in too many places to be able to do it on our own property.
So the little access road that follows the lake
I think it really
border
pinches
is
off.
not all on our property then?
No, it's not.
And it really pinches off where that little, when a little horseshoe or
Yeah.
cul-de-sac of water is. That turns into, I think we own just a walking trail along the edge of that lip.
Yeah, it gets really tight. It's all SBI land.
Yeah, that little thing right there.
There's a
That is,
slide here.
I'll tell you, that'd be a great, because that, from where you've got the cursor at right now, around that little peninsula point over to the bare spot, there was a huge amount of people fishing there during Kids Fishing Day. That was probably the majority of people were probably hidden on that little peninsula right there because it was so clear. It's got such a nice border to it. And if I recall right, straight across from your hand over at the lake, if you came straight across the lake this way.
This way?
Well, right to the shoreline. That was just the other side of that peninsula from where your hand was. Yeah,
Here?
just a little bit back towards, you just move it to that. Here, let me put my finger on my screen. Can you see that?
Go by that big blank
Up,
spot.
a little more. You
There.
went too far. Halfway between the point and the clear spot. There, right about there. That's where 2 of the biggest catches were for Kids Fishing Day. All that was for just that
But
little
that-
tidbit
we had
of
a slide.
information. That little tidbit of information, we followed the hand. That was worse than the bouncing ball. But that, like I said, a great fishing area. That was a great place. There was a lot of people over there. We were kind of around the other side, but we took a walk. I just wanted to meet people and see how everybody was doing. And that was there was a huge amount of people over that area over there. So.
And the other point to make is our work is reimbursable. So anything we do, not only is CEQA covered in the grant, engineering's covered in the grant, our work would be covered in the grant. So if we hired a consultant or a contractor to build this stuff, the tough stuff there, we could have our people do all of this work up here and being reimbursed if we felt that was appropriate.
What about purchasing the access land?
No.
It's not in the grant.
Nope.
Do you think they'd sell it?
Well, originally they told us no, but I'm going to propose to them not a fixed easement, but an access right, so that because they have the property up for sale, so they didn't want to slice a piece
Of it off.
right out of the middle of their parcel, because this is all of theirs right here.
Is that all for sale?
Yeah.
That whole,
So if I'm hoping to convince them if they just give us an access right, that wouldn't impede any of their sale going forward.
What about
If
trade? Do we have any property next to their property that we could swap? No?
We didn't buy much property.
that,
I can tell you that where all these houses are, all of this, we could have bought for, I think, $40,000, Rick Toronto said, but the board at the time said no.
Nope.
How much
that's what I'm thinking. They're going to build, if they sell this, they're going to build houses all over that mountain. I guess it is a mountain, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah, zoning won't let it, but they're talking about a big family compound, so
Big
the
family
Kennedys will
compound,
probably
yeah.
buy it. And
The Kennedys
Place up there.
or the Schwarzeneggers?
I'm going to be going to
Tom Selleck lives right on that road right there.
I'm going to be going to a unique wastewater workshop tomorrow in Orville, and the last time I did that, it runs downhill still. They haven't determined,
He
Okay.
really lives up here, huh? I heard he did, but I didn't know if he did for sure.
We're going to do a roll call vote on this, so we're going to wait for Director Kellogg. Then we can try to get any more discussion out of the way before we get a motion on this.
Well, I'll make a comment. Remember, the district always has the condemnation power, if necessary. And, that it's much cheaper, much more friendly to do it as a negotiated exchange, but if push came to shove and $600,000 was on the line, that's always an option that's available to them.
Oh, thank you for that comment.
Condemnation? Is that how you
I like to see the teeth every once in a while.
Yeah. Like him just smile.
No,
you talking about
Hey, you
eminent
get about
domain.
300 kayakers in support of you voting for that condemnation.
Yeah.
I was up at the lake this last Saturday. I was doing some 4-H work up there. I was for 4-H kids up in that area. And I went by there, and the place was full.
We haven't had a motion
people.
on this yet, right?
In fact, I wanted to walk down to Gazebo, and I couldn't find a place to park where I could walk to. I said,
So we can move on.
That's why I said. That's exactly where I was going.
I thought about doing it.
Let's keep moving.
I move for adoption of Resolution 2013-04, authorizing the application for funding from the Department of Boating and Waterways with the understanding that no project is being approved and the CEQA process will be completed prior to any work being started.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Any more discussion? Dr. Kellogg, just because you just came back, I just want to make sure. No more discussion?
No public?
No, I didn't have any discussion to begin with.
Public, any comments?
Oh, I had one question I didn't get to ask. How much does SPI want for that piece of property?
They probably won't part with
Close
it.
to $2 million, I heard.
Oh, the whole piece of property.
0.4 million, something like that.
Kevin, can we cover that check?
Yeah, write it. Petty cash.
I wondered why they haven't been able to sell any of their property.
No, we're not. Probably going to see that piece of property sell real quick. Any discussion from the public? Loretta, and Lauren, you guys are about all that's left, so. No? Roll call vote, please.
Director Fletcher?
Yes.
Director Hunt?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
Yes?
Director Duncan?
Yes.
Director Phillips?
Yes. Let it show. It passes 5-0 on there. Okay. Item 8G, Gazebo at Paradise Lake. A verbal report on the status of gazebo project at Paradise Lake. And GM Barber, because I'm going to cut that down from the general manager. We say that
GMB.
every time we GM Barber.
GMB.
Here's Jim's update on where the gazebo's at in bullet point form, so it's easy to follow.
Did you move it?
Huh?
You said where the gazebo is at. Did you move it?
We moved it 3 feet over. Yeah.
Give a little better lake view.
3 feet closer to the lake.
Great.
So since Jim's here, that he can cover anything, but I think we just got a few things left.
Just a few things left, and they're really detailed things because it is ready for use. It's been used. The roof's completely done. We have the detail on the roof done. We're just doing some small detail work on the lower portion of it. As soon as that's done, then we'll get a paint and ceiling and some of the detail painting and cleaned up, clear wood finish on it. And Greg's going to do some planting around it. Bill Church's wife made a donation, I believe, of a $100 gift certificate to buy some plants for around there. So once that work is completed, Greg will start putting plants in there. And in fact, I think there's a wedding scheduled for that.
Oh, is there?
Pretty quick.
We need a donation can there at Kids Fishing Day for plants, park beautification. Donation can.
We don't want to compete with Kids Fishing Day donations.
How far is electricity from there?
That's questionable, Larry, because there was some electricity out there. Some of the wiring was, well, all of this stuff that goes out there is pretty old.
Right at the end of the picnic
So
table?
it really stops right, yeah, it really stops right up there at the reservation area where we have all the concrete tables.
How far is it?
35 feet?
Yeah, somewhere around 80 to 100 feet.
Oh, really?
My son does weddings, and that's why I wanted the information. He's
As
a
long as he's got a
DJ.
good power cord, he can get the.
Yeah, he's got good power
We
cords.
run power down there just on a heavy cord.
Right, he's got heavy
So,
cords.
yeah.
Yeah,
I got pictures if you want to see them too.
They shouldn't be putting on any 4-star fireworks down there, I mean, for a wedding, I mean.
When do you expect to have this
Generally.
completed, Jim? You said you've got a wedding coming up.
Well, it's ready for use right now, Ken. It is a volunteer project, I want to make that really clear. So it's kind of when time allows for everyone to get up there. Really, it's down to Greg and I for what's really going on. But we want to invite anyone to help.
I'll see if I can get back up there.
When we're doing these things. So I had put in here, I planned, and I indicated to George, I plan on doing a little bit of work this weekend on it, and perhaps some more the following weekend. It'll still be a few weeks out. Eric's on vacation. The weather's got to change, and there's a few things that need to be done before we put paint and clear wood finish on it.
So it may not, in fact, be completely dolled up prior to the wedding, but we're approaching.
We've already got
it's to the point now where it's very usable.
Serviceable. Yeah, it looks pretty.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
There's already been weddings there.
Yeah.
Are they still married?
I'm not certain.
They're fishing. They're fishing. Are we going to have a dedication?
I think when it was all done, we had talked about that.
Good excuse for a barbecue.
Yeah, it is.
Very true.
Probably we could dedicate it at the next tour.
They were doing it this
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
Dedicated to the next tour?
Yeah.
Is there going to be did we order a plaque, or is she getting one?
They had their own
Plaque's already
small
on the building.
dedication ceremony.
Oh, they did.
She bought the plaque. There's his plaque.
Oh,
That was Bill's wife there.
right. I knew. Okay. But they did have a dedication then?
Yeah, it was
Private?
her invitation. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
A few friends in her close family.
Well, that's a beautiful plaque that she did there. So.
Did we name it?
Slugger.
It's named
Right there on top.
What is the name?
Slugger.
Slugger. Oh, okay. I saw that, but I couldn't quite read it.
That's a great name for it.
So anybody who's ready to do some finishing,
Is he a lake tender for a number of
whatever
years?
Jim needs up there, just
Is he a lake
sign up
tender
on the
for a
roll.
number of years?
We'll put a sheet at the back, and before you leave tonight, sign up.
Sign up.
Exactly. Volunteers are needed on there. Thank you, Jim, for that report. Was there any questions from the public or the board?
Now that has action may be taken.
Yeah, that had action to be taken. They moved it to the wrong one. Yeah, exactly, on there. So no action needed to be taken, right? We weren't approving anything for you. Okay, item 8H, new Corporation Yard Heating and Air Conditioning Project. And Jim, I trust that's why you sat with us all evening, in case we had any questions for you. We're great people to hang out with. Corporation Yard Heating and Air Conditioning Project, and authorize the general manager to execute a contract, documents on behalf of the district. Staff will have a recommendation available to the board meeting. The only question I had on it was, did Dell Johnson, did we put it out to them, or we put it out to
Yes.
RFP, and
We actually had 8 contractors show up at the job walk.
Okay.
And
Put it out to people we knew, and we put it through the North Valley
Contractors Exchange, okay. I was just wondering, I didn't see them in there,
8 contractors showed, and Hall was one, so Dale Johnson was here, and they did not submit it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to, I just want to try to keep the money at Paradise, local as possible, so.
That's great.
Well, isn't Frank's? This is
Yeah,
Frank's is.
Frank's is local.
Is that Gilmore, is that Jim?
That's actually John.
That's John.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's expensive.
Yeah, okay.
It's a very strange.
Yeah, okay.
I move approval of the HVAC equipment and services from Frank's Refrigeration and Heating for the bid price of $54,165, and authorize the district general manager to execute the project contract.
I'll second.
Well, I have a correction to his motion. You said HWAC, and it's an HVAC.
You're right. HVAC.
Yeah, I'll hold it up.
Sorry
I'll
about
hold it up
that.
so you can focus
No,
on
no,
it for you, Claire.
We don't want an
My eyes are a little blurry.
We don't want an HWAC?
You don't want an HW? What is an HW?
I was afraid to find out.
Water. That's for water.
It's a hot water. That's a hot water air conditioner.
It's water.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? No. Passes 5-0.
And I'm saying aye, and then I'm going to.
Ben, yeah, I know. Jim, thank you for everything. Thank you for your hard work on the gazebo again.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
Looks pretty. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was H. Okay, Item 8I, resolution, board resolution 2013-02, review and adoption of board resolution number 2013-02, a resolution of appreciation to John H. Price by the Board of Directors of the Paradise Irrigation District. We will do a roll call vote on that. There it is. My throat, after all the talking I've done, I don't think that we really need to read it. I think has everybody got a chance to read it? All the board members? And we will be reading this to John when we present it to him, won't we? Okay.
Is he gone already?
A few weeks left.
Few weeks left.
He's still got a couple of weeks.
We're going to do something.
More for his official last day, but his not being here day is a few weeks out.
Are we going to do something to present this to him?
Yeah, we'll frame it, and we are working on a luncheon.
Okay, good. I think John deserves something like that.
Sorry, Ken? I move we adopt board resolution number 2013-02.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, with pleasure.
Reluctantly, yes. I hate to lose him.
Yeah,
I hate to lose John.
Yes. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
And yes, we will miss John greatly. Well, I couldn't talk Rick into coming by and be on call, so we probably won't have much luck with John either.
Nope.
Okay. Item 9, excuse me, not 9, yes, 9, excuse me, was board recess. We're going to forego that to get this thing done. We're going to go on to item 10, treasurer's report.
He's going, I'm about heading for there too.
Are you going to, do we need a board
The
recess?
coffee went right through me.
Yes.
I'm going to give you 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
We'll reconvene and
I think everybody's talking.
get back at this, and now we will go into item 10A, treasurer's report.
I have been waiting.
Go, Kevin.
You have my written report. Cash position currently is at $5.6 million. That has not changed much since the last time we met. We are currently, most of the cash right now currently is going to 2 major projects, which is the Blasco, which is the tank rehab, and then the corporation yard. Those are the 2 main projects that are being funded currently. Our process recycle water project is in the design phase. That is going to be a big money crunch, and that'll also be brought up in budget, this current budget coming up, about how we want to pay for that. We have met with the retirement plan providers. We're still working out the kinks of the contract, and once that contract's signed, then we'll make sure that he's here to meet with all of the individuals to go over their retirement plan and to make sure all the money's transferred in the correct manner that they want it transferred over. Our accounting software, we have somebody on site this week that's going over payroll and is working with Christy to make sure that the payroll is transitioned over right, that the things that we want to have done in the future are in place now, even if maybe we're not using them now, and everything seems like it's going fairly smoothly. So, water rights, that's on hold until we get further into that. I've got a rough draft of the reserving policy that will go to the finance committee here shortly. So I have a feeling that in the next week we'll have a finance committee meeting to go over generalized budget items, how the budget is presented this year, if there's anything that they want to change in the budget, a reserving policy draft to bring forward to the board. But also, there's also going to be a cost analysis associated with full-page billing that I'm going to try to bring forward to the finance committee for their look. What we're getting to is we're getting to a point in our software conversion where we're having to make a choice. Either we stay with the postcards, but to stay with the postcards and not to have them change is going to require some customization on the new software provider's part, which is a cost. They have full page billing that we can go to now, which will be a change to the customer's look It'll be a change to how much it costs for us to produce that. There's two options when that happens. We can either outsource it, which will get cost associated with outsourcing that billing, or it's only printing and mailing would be outsourcing, and there is cost associated with that, cost savings associated with that, or we can print them in-house. We can stick with our current postcard and just change the look, which they have a standard look that they present, or we can then have it customized and have no change to the customer. So that'll be something that we'll present to the Finance Committee, and then the Finance Committee can then bring that back to the full board for their approval. So,
Kevin, when you say reserving policy, are you talking about potentially a reserving policy for the retirement medical?
no, this would be a reserving policy for our reserves as a whole. So you look, we have multiple reserves. We have a long-term capital reserve. We have a replacement reserve. We have a drought supply reserve. This is clarifying, putting all those reserves into one document and getting board buy-in on what they feel comfortable with as a balance that they would like to see in those reserves. It then specifies what those reserves are and how those reserves should be spent. And it's all one document. And then once we get that document in place, then we can bring that back to the board or bring that back to the Finance Committee, or however that works, but we can get into place on how to achieve those goals.
Okay.
So it's a policy based on what the board feels comfortable as having in their reserves. And so I think it's an important document that should be looked at and considered. So other than that, I'll take any questions at this point.
How is it that at 10 o'clock at night you're still this excited about numbers? I do not understand that.
How can you not be excited about this? This is good stuff.
And I had a question. What was it? It left me.
How are we doing on water rights renewal?
What was that?
You've got down here, water rights renewal is in progress.
I reported on that in my manager's report in writing. We're still waiting on the Water Rights Board staff, although they did indicate that they asked for some more files, so they're at least working on it.
Is the CEQA, the fellows doing that, has that come to finish yet? Or
No, he's on hold because you can't, the very first, most important component of the CEQA document is the project description. He can't write the project description until we know exactly where we're headed with the Water Rights Board. Because if we're going to go to license, we need to know those terms. We need to know that we're going to license on our oldest right. So all those things can't be moved forward until we know what the Water Rights Board staff is.
and they haven't given us any indication yet of what they're going to do or not?
No, they're reviewing our data. I mean, there is a possibility, I put in there I may call for a meeting because we could proceed with what our data shows, what I presented at the mid-year budget review. But there's some risk associated with that because you got to hit the target or your CEQA is not going to be a good document.
Did ICMA, did we hear anything from them?
Just that, we just give them a documentation that we're switching to. It's just basically like releasing the funds.
But they haven't, and they didn't come back on anything?
Oh, no.
They didn't.
They said goodbye.
They said goodbye.
They didn't say goodbye, huh?
They did say goodbye by
they?
saying, just give us documentation to release the funds, which
that's all.
That's what our new provider will help us do, is give us documentation to release the funds. So, yeah. But we're still kind of working with our current provider to get those documents done, just to get us signed up with them. Once we get signed up with them, then they'll work with us to get the funds released.
I think that employees are going to be much happier with the choice we made.
Yeah, and I've just to report back to you, Rick Moots and Richard Maxey have been available immediately whenever we had questions. Rick was actually at the office twice today to pick up the documents because I had a few corrections that needed to be done. He was there, and within 15 minutes to go over the documents, and then he was back again to get copies. So
And that's the difference of having somebody local.
yep. So I've
That is gonna
nothing
make-
but
I
good
think
things
that's
to
gonna make the
report back
difference
on
in
that.
deal. Any more questions for Kevin? I would entertain a motion.
I move we do not accept the treasurer's report.
Second?
What if we created
So we're, gonna
ourselves?
vote, so we're all voting no on that?
Well, you got a second on it.
I know.
You got a second.
We
You
gotta
gotta
vote
do
on it.
something.
Wait a second, so in order to make that work, we have to vote no? Is that how that goes?
Roll call.
Okay,
Roll call.
yeah.
Everybody say aye at the same time.
Right.
When you say everybody in favor, aye. Everybody opposed, aye.
Yeah, okay.
You didn't let
The black hole will open.
All in favor, say aye. All not in favor,
Say aye.
say aye.
Aye.
The noes have it. So we had,
I move we accept the treasurer's report for the period ending February 28, 2013.
did I have a second? Did I hear I had a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye. 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 That passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Yes.
Got me in a soft minute.
All that work. See, we took the excitement right out of his sails right there. Okay. Next on the agenda is item 10B, approval of the February checks, and I am going to start with the father of Dr. Duncan over there,
Oh, me?
and we are going to.
I don't have very many.
Start with me while he looks them up.
Page 116, iPad. Marathon business forms. 15,000 billing envelopes. How long does it take us to use those?
About 6 months.
6 months. Okay, so
6
we're not
months.
going to change the letters for at least 6 months, huh?
Well, we won't change to letters until we get our new software system.
Oh,
and
okay.
it won't
When
be
I saw that,
for
now
another
that,
6 months.
are we able to, I have 6 accounts. Why can't I get them in one envelope? I lose them.
I think the new system doesn't allow us to conglomerate customers. We bill based on route, not based on customer.
Yeah,
So
but-
I believe in our new system that we will be able to conglomerate based on customers. So you could get one bill with all of your accounts.
Oh, I don't want that. But because
then you're out of luck.
some of my clients pay them. But the thing, I pass them on. But what I do, just to save money, I would, and have them all in one place. It would be nice to get them in one envelope.
I don't think that's possible.
Not possible, huh? This seems like it should be. Okay. The next one is, I missed, page, iPad 123, Western Tree Nursery. Is this the plants that were just planted?
Western Tree, yep, I think
Yes.
so.
Okay, you told me what, I thought, well, where are we buying new plants? And then you told me today in your report. That's all I have.
Okay, Director Kellogg.
Butte County Elections Division, is this to pay for the fall election?
What page?
Page 101, there's a list of vendors. $17,950.
Yes,
For one person.
yes.
Page,
Board
what
approved
was
that
page
one,
was it?
last.
Oh, that
Okay,
was-
thank you.
I wondered what
That's
that
it.
might cost, and I didn't know.
They vary.
Very.